戦争は変わった。一つの時代が終わり、俺たちの戦争は終わった。War has changed. It's no longer about nations, ideologies, or ethnicity. It's an endless series of proxy battles fought by mercenaries and machines. War and its consumption of life has become a well-oiled machine. War has changed. Verified soldiers carry algorithmic arms, manipulate social influence, AI enhance and regulate their timelines. Memetic control, information control, emotion control, battlefield control. Everything is monitored and kept under control. War has changed. The age of deterrence has become the age of control, all in the name of averting catastrophe from weapons of mass destruction. And he who controls the battlefield controls history. War has changed. And when the battlefield is under total control, war becomes routine. Think outside the cage.
Every time we update, it just destroys the file.
Did it go away?
Yeah, it went away again.
Oh
Yeah,
no!
Every time there's an upgrade, for some reason it just kills the intro music. I keep hitting it and it keeps telling me it's missing.
Can we fix it? Can we do it again? Can you play it?
Tried.
Are you playing it from? Hi everybody. 1 second. Technical issues. Are you playing it from the StreamYard? Or
No,
you
StreamYard does not have the audio. It's just the video, and I play the audio from a separate device.
No, we have it. We have this one.
What? The world is getting crazy.
See?
Okay, great.
We got
play
it. Background music. Let's. You play the video. I'll play the audio.
Okay, 3, 2, 1.
Woo!
Yeah. People are acting more and more insane. The end of the world is tomorrow. Tomorrow. There's only one thing to do when the world is falling apart. Listen to Basil and Gonz as they discuss this week's news and events through the lens of Bible prophecy. You are listening to Canary Crime News Talk.
You're listening to Canary Crime News Talk. Today is April 15th, 2026. We are live to tape on episode 932. And today, binding and losing. Signing on from Off the Grid, Razzle Dazzle. I'm your best buddy, Basil, and you are not crazy.
And my name is Gonz, at Face Like the Sun, director of the Age of Deceit films and author of Archetypalism, your favorite Asian provocateur for Christ, live to tape from the metaverse to bring you the best news, which is the gospel message of Jesus Christ while reporting the egregious with a well-rounded, biblically grounded... Whoa, it's playing again! Oh my goodness, I'm getting taken over! Ah, it's looping! Stop the loop!
Stop. Oh, okay. There we go. Oh, I left the loop button on. Hey, take 2 was almost good. Okay.
Almost. Yeah. What are we talking about? It's a struggling Wednesday.
It is Wednesday, my dudes. Wednesday.
And as the government tells us, it is tax day. Woo! Give unto Caesar, everybody. I like what Greg on X posted, which is, I think he posts this every year. He said, it's kind of like a back and forth between me and IRS. The IRS says, you owe taxes. And me goes, how much do I owe? And the IRS says, you get to figure that out. And then me goes, can I just pay what I want? And IRS goes, no. We know exactly how much you owe, but you have to guess the number too. And then me goes, what if I guess wrong? And the IRS goes, jail. Happy tax day, everybody.
The classic. What a classic, Greg.
Classic.
Thanks for that excellent reading, Gonzo.
Yeah.
And on top of tax day, it is also, it's a Wednesday, right?
It is a Wednesday. Yeah.
I think it's a Wednesday.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Are you
Okay.
waiting for me to play the Wednesday jingle that I just played? I'll play another one.
Did
if
you?
you want.
Oh, I blacked
Yeah.
out. I mean,
you-
everything's
oh,
so
you-
wonky today.
I
as
know.
to,
Yeah. You
know,
must have wigged out or something.
Actually,
I'll play
I
it
think
again.
it's a really good. I think it's a good sign. I think it's a good sign because it's really fun today. I think we've got some. I'm excited about today's show actually because we've got some great. Now you might be confused. You might be tuning into other news podcasts. You might be paying attention to the timeline. You might be reading articles on your Apple News. Hopefully, you're doing very few of these things and you're just keeping sane and living your life best you can to walk in the footsteps of Jesus. That's what you should be doing. But if anybody's trying to pay attention, you will notice that the past couple of days are sort of suspiciously devoid of literally anything interesting current events wise. I mean,
Yeah.
look, could we
There's a
talk
little
about the war in
detox.
Iran?
Yeah. A
Could
little
we
detox.
talk about the blockade is good in China and the troops and we get a little bit. You don't need to think about that, okay? That's all ops. We've got the real stuff for you today, unveiling itself through the through the sort of magical narrative crafting complex that is the internet. So it just makes sense with such an excellent day with excellent analysis that we would have it. Really, we actually planned all these problems here at the front because it's supposed to make you pay attention. You know, if we just
Sure.
started and the music went great and we had a wonderful flow at the beginning, you'd just kind of be sitting back, not paying attention, just letting the podcast wash over you. But now you're in it. So wake up, lock in, everybody. There is a real quick mention, and as far as like updates to world events, because of course, after the last episode, we got to experience the wonderful wave of suddenly everybody in the world, everybody's an expert on Trump being a chaos magician. They're all experts in the esoteric and the occult now. You know, it's just that they just liked seeing another option that wasn't just Antichrist. Because, you know, again, it's weird enough being us and like suddenly the rest of the world's talking about Antichrist in 2026. And, you know, top to bottom, doesn't matter how learned or unlearned or whatever, or it's mostly probably just bots talking about Trump as the Antichrist. Well, now we gave him a little variety, and suddenly everybody's an expert on tarot cards and Trump being chaos magician.
Well, they're literally playing the Marina Abramovich clip that we played, what, 2021 or something, 2022, whenever we played that.
Yeah, maybe even before that. And I was actually kind of enjoying that part because usually every time I talk about Trump being a chaos magician, of course, I say, you know, the queen witch, the occult empress herself of the world, whether you've heard of her or not, Marina Abramovich said in public on multiple occasions that Trump is a powerful chaos magician, whether he knows it or not. And we've gone through the analysis. I've explained all the occult implications and why he may or may not know that that's actually the case. And it's funny because every time I get into it, it's actually kind of difficult to find the clips. I mean, you can find them. It's, you know, it's not impossible, but you know, you got to dig around to find the clip. So like if I mentioned it and somebody wanted to like confirm it or didn't believe me, or if we wanted to play it on the show live or something, it takes a little bit of digging. Well, after Monday, everybody catching on, it's they might be the easiest clips to find in the world now. So lots of people, more than anything, the benefit, even though it's really annoying, and that's okay. That's our cross to bear. We experience this, Gons, when suddenly
I know it's just become a pattern now of, and not that we're on top of it. There are other people obviously who have been talking about this as well, but
no, we're on top of it. Okay, I'm tired of being.
Humble, I get that. Right? I get
tired of being humble. No, so the point being is that now those clips, of which there are a couple, are all over the timeline, and even if you've never wanted to see the clips of Marina Abramovich talking about Trump being a powerful chaos magician, whether he knows it or not, you're going to come across it. So,
and both of them, by the way, there are two clips. There's one where she's in the back of like a Uber or something and talking about it. And there's
Yeah.
another one where she's at like a woman's event, and that's the one we like
conference.
better. Yeah, because the
Both
women
pretty good.
there kind of chuckle and they're like, "Wait, what? What?"
There's that's right. They sort of respond in disbelief, which is interesting because she's at like a, it's some sort of feminist conference. It's probably a conference for like witches. And if it's not for witches, there's definitely going to be a bunch of witches there who would be offended by the statement that Trump is a powerful chaos magician. So she is actually speaking to people who are in disbelief and offended by the idea, because of course they're working with a paradigm that he's, a Christian who thinks he's Jesus or something wild like that.
Yeah.
So, I wasn't planning to dig this deep into this, but I think it's interesting. This is the experience, because I think a lot of other people may have had this experience, our people. Because of course, in recent, I would say weeks or months, okay, not to say that nobody talked about it, but in recent weeks or months, calling Trump the Antichrist become extremely popular, which made a handful of old timers roll their head like, okay, you're finally catching on. It's again too bad that most people posting about it don't know the first thing about the Antichrist except for what they saw in the Left Behind movie, but it's okay. It's fine. But now we have the sort of, I don't, again, whether this was some purposeful narrative crafting, what would be the effect, the purpose of a system is what it does. What does this do? Especially following the narrative that Trump is the Antichrist. It almost feels like there could be some narrative adjustment where somebody doesn't like Trump being called the Antichrist, and so they'll just shift it just enough. It's just as engaging, just as mysterious, just as, I guess, I don't know, insulting or punk rock or something, to shift it away from Trump's the Antichrist to, oh no, he's a chaos magician, which, hey, he could be both. Who knows? I mean, there's nothing really to say that
Well, he
what the
did.
Bible says about the Antichrist or the beast or the man of
sin,
lawlessness, the man of sin, all these sorts of things. It could very well be the magician.
Much like recently, though, the whiplash of the narrative. I mean, I've noticed that it's really important to stay grounded in these days, because one day he's the Antichrist, next day he's a chaos magician, and then still the next day, Trump posts a picture of him and Jesus bonding or something.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah.
This is also funny because, of course, we weren't planning on talking about this because it's fun. It's just like filler. But yes, Trump posted a picture. Do you have the actual post that he posted?
I'll go looking for it.
Okay, go grab it real quick because it's hilarious. Now, this photo, of course, it's in response to all the responses to the first Jesus doctor picture
which he deleted.
Which he deleted. And he comes back. And I want to say that him posting this might be in response to the chaos magician stuff. But he posts this picture, and again, it's this like classic religious imagery. There's Jesus in classic form, and there's Trump, and Trump is kind of like resting his head on Jesus's, head. His eyes are closed as if he's in prayer or something. And Jesus has his hand on Trump's shoulder, and his other hand is sort of on Trump's torso there, as if he's praying for him or with him. And in the background, of course, you've got the big light fuzzy rays with, of course, an American flag waving big in the background. And his tweet is the funniest because he says, the radical left. The radical left lunatics might not like this, but I think it is quite nice, President TJT. I think this picture of Jesus praying for me is quite nice. It's quite a nice.
It's a screenshot of Irish for Trump posting, and the caption on the image is, "I was never a religious man, but doesn't it seem with all these satanic, demonic, child-sacrificing monsters being exposed that God might be playing his Trump card?"
anyways,
launch a new age.
It is a new age. It is a new
fun
age.
twists and turns. But remember, how people perceive Trump and how people think of Trump doesn't matter if you're a lunatic left or you're a MAGA person or you're some sort of libertarian or establishment Republican. You got to remember that your mental model of Trump is being updated every day. Like there's whole divisions of both domestic and foreign military operations with like warehouses filled with people who their entire lives and careers are dedicated to constantly adjusting the world's perception of Trump. So this is sort of what the narrative wars are all about. So this is pretty funny. It's been pretty funny the past few days. It's very nice.
Yep.
Now,
I don't know. I think putting the word or letters CIA in the title really dampens our reach on X because it's
probably
really quiet today. But yeah, I mean,
that's
what are you gonna
okay.
do? Yeah.
You
Come on,
know.
folks, get to sharing, get to engaging.
So
Go ahead.
just right off the bat, just a quick update on the war. Not the most important thing. We're not going to dig into it, but the update this morning coming from USA Today, exclusive, meaning USA Today apparently is the only person reporting this. Very suspicious. Pentagon ramps up planning of possible military ops in Cuba.
Planning of possible. Okay.
Planning of possible.
Announcing a planning of a possible military. Okay. So it's like
military
an announcement of a plan of an announcement.
Military planning for a possible Pentagon-led operation in Cuba is quietly ramping up in case President Donald Trump gives the order to intervene there, USA Today has learned. Two sources familiar, et cetera. Oh, condition of anonymity because they're not authorized. Two sources
it was a CIA.
familiar with the order spoke to USA Today. Yeah, there's that guy right in front with the Trump flag. Now, a couple of things stuck out real quick. Of course, the friction with Cuba recently and Marco Rubio talking about taking it over, Trump talking about taking it over.
Do whatever he wants.
Kind of came to fruition. The puzzle piece fit in the big puzzle after Monday's shift in the sort of global oil economy, where all the ships that couldn't go to the Strait of Hormuz turned around and went to America, making America the highest crude exporter at about 35%. Which kind of, gave everybody who had been trying to see some alternative narrative here than, I don't know, Trump's crazy and Israel and stuff like this. And you could see on the map of ships, suddenly, Cuba became very important. Cuba was sort of the gateway to the new focal point of American energy exporting. So that kind of made sense why randomly out of nowhere a few weeks ago, Cuba became the target. Now, in this particular exclusive telling, it says military planning for a possible Pentagon-led operation in Cuba. Now, when you talk about military operations around the world, doesn't matter where, who's going to be in charge of military operations for anywhere of any kind?
The ones who see.
It's going to be the Pentagon. Pentagon controls military operations. So this piece of specific language from anonymous sources, of course, is that they're getting ready for a military operation, but this one is Pentagon-led, okay? So the real military is going to be leading this military operation in Cuba, which you could read right over that and kind of just be like, oh, yeah, of course. Okay, they are. Okay, military operation. Ooh, scary. But the fact that it's so specifically inserted 5 words into this report will set off a little bit of an alarm bell to those who, pay attention to history or have kind of any sort of long-term memory about what our government likes to do. And that's because pretty much at least for the past 100 years, pretty much every operation in Cuba has been led by the CIA. And
Right.
this
I mean,
is
there was the initial support of Castro, then the opposition to Castro, that flipperoo. There's the Bay of
yeah,
Pigs. There's
Bay
the
of
multiple
Pigs,
assassination attempts with the
Operation
mafia
Northwood,
involved. Yeah.
Operation Northwoods with
Uh,
Kennedy.
Yeah, you got the exile groups being, the covert war using the exile groups to try to. It's the same playbook every
Cuban,
time.
yeah,
Training the
Cuban
Cuban
military
exiles and stuff.
crisis,
Alpha 66 was, I think, what it was called.
all of it,
Yeah, all of
all
it.
of
Yeah,
it.
yeah. Even connection
Almost,
to the JFK assassination. There's a lot there with Cuba
yeah.
and CIA
At least
and
in
whatnot.
recent history, okay? I know
Yeah.
Theodore Roosevelt did some stuff down there. There's been military stuff, but really nowhere near modern history. So modern
Right.
history, any operation in Cuba has been strictly and extravagantly secret CIA operations down there, which is sort of the ripples of those CIA operations in Cuba have sort of reverberated to around the world and through space and time. So for them to very specifically say, hey, no, there's going to be a Cuba operation, or there might be, who knows, there might be, but this time it's Pentagon led. Ooh, perhaps a once in a generation Pentagon led Cuban operation. Now,
Two
of course,
sources who spoke not just under the condition of anonymity, but because they're not authorized to speak to the media.
yeah,
Who?
well, I'm not authorized.
What people? Yeah, what people are not authorized to speak to the media that might be in government who might know this kind of stuff,
or might not be in government is the
Well,
thing.
that's true.
You never
too.
know.
Yeah.
You don't even know. They don't even say two sources in the government. They just say
True.
two sources of people. It could be a couple of Cuban guys, down there on the street. I don't know. It doesn't matter. But where was I going with this? Okay,
I
so
don't
you've
know.
got, yes, the Pentagon. So you kind of have this. Oh, I was going to say, all right, so don't freak out about the idea of them. What they're talking about doing is mobilizing 1,000 troops or a couple thousand troops to get ready to possibly invade Cuba or whatever, right? Which is scary, which is negative, right? We don't like the idea of putting boots on the ground for the most part. And we saw this because of the idea of putting boots on the ground in Iran. So what we have, I think, now I'm not saying this is a bluff. I don't know if Trump actually does bluff, because the movement of military assets, whether they're planes, whether they're boats, whether they're ground troops, we've seen Trump use just the mere movement of military assets for negotiating purposes, let's say. It's one thing to say, like, hey, I'm going to bomb you. It's another thing to have it widely known and tracked that there's, an air bridge coming from a U.S. base in Germany flying over Iranian airspace. Even if they're not dropping any bombs, just you have the planes fly because everybody can see them fly. Very effective threat there. So really good chance that this is simply just, mobilizing assets for either a threat or for negotiating purposes. We don't know if what exactly will come out of it, and we don't even actually know if this is real or not. Somebody should really authorize somebody to speak to the media. But it's funny.
Well, I was going to say, we're and the general public is there. I mean, maybe they're not strictly authorized, but we're not unauthorized to talk to the media. We could just talk to the media.
I'm strictly not authorized.
I don't know what handler you got
I
going
don't
on.
authorize you either. I unauthorize you.
Okay. You're my handler. Okay. All right.
You've been unauthorized. I mean, whether you obey or not, that'll be up to you.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because, again, just in the historical context, if you're someone who's paid attention to CIA history and espionage and these kinds of things, for them to make such a specific point that this is a Pentagon-led operation makes you think, well, what about the CIA? Are they on the bench? Did they get benched for this Cuba operation? What's
I
going
think they're just
on?
not authorized to talk to the media.
Cuba is basically just a CIA island. These poor CIA.
I know.
guys.
C for Cuba stands, or I'm sorry, C for CIA stands for Cuba. Cuba Intelligence
Cuba
Agency
intelligence authorization.
authorization.
But the CIA certainly, it's possible that they're just in a different business these days, Gons. It's just possible because
Well, yeah. I mean, they did shut down the Book of Truth or whatever it was called.
they used to be in the business of secret worldview narrative operations. They used to be in the
Mhm.
business of espionage. They used to be in the business of manipulating world events behind the scenes, not getting any credit. And as we've seen in recent history, Guns, they're tired of not getting any credit.
They are
They're
definitely
tired
tired
of
of not
it.
getting
And
credit.
you know what happens when anybody but the CIA wants to get some more credit? You do what so many people out there have done these days, and that is you start a podcast.
You start a podcast. So the
Start a
podcast is a
podcast.
psyop. Is this
Yeah.
podcast a psyop? Is that? By the way, speaking of psyop, real quick,
Psyops.
I just saw this. I know it's not in the show. Real quick, Merriam-Webster just posted this morning on X. Psyop is short for psychological operation. We promise this isn't one.
Wow.
Which-
Very funny.
Merriam-Webster coming out telling us what the definition of a psyop is. Are they adding this to the lexicon? Is that why they're announcing this on X on tax day? Is this?
Well, that would seem to be, that is usually their sort of MO.
And
me
for them
see.
to say it's not this post or whatever is not a psyop is, I mean, it's definitely a psyop. You know
Let's
what I mean?
go
Like
see. Now, of course, Merriam-Webster, you want to pay attention to them, not just because they have a fun time and they, will pick Gen Z words to be new words, and they love to confuse, the old folks by making lit a word. I guess that's old at this point. Looks maxing, that kind of stuff. But we've seen in the past 6 years, and obviously off into distant history, Merriam-Webster specifically be used for psyops by controlling language. We saw this with the word vaccine getting changed. We saw that pandemic got changed. We saw, and of course, it happens just in time to start calling people out for things like disinformation. Right?
Yeah.
They changed the word vaccine. So then when crazy people start talking about vaccines, they have an official ability to be like, no, this is disinformation. Look, this is the definition of vaccine, even though the definition just the day before, you guys get the point. You see how this works. Controlling the language, you control the world, and not just the world in sort of its physical form, but in the minds of everybody around us. So is that the official?
This is the Merriam-Webster website.
Let's see what they have to say. Let's see what they have
Okay,
to
so
say.
they got psyop, or less commonly psy-op, or psyop with a capital O. A military operation usually aimed at influencing the enemy's state of mind through non-combative means, such as distribution of leaflets.
Ah, it's World War I, Don. World War I.
1910. We better watch out for those leaflets.
Dropping leaflets out of a plane.
And they got all kinds of little examples here and
Excuses
quotes.
in that thing. I don't know if we need to read all the
We don't need to go through this.
Okay, well, let's look at this real quick. Let's go back up to the definition there. The two interesting things that I see that jump out at me is it specifically says a military operation usually aimed at influencing the enemy's state of mind through non-combative means.
Yeah.
And as we know, in fifth generation warfare, the war is not just for the minds of your enemy's population. The war is also for the minds of your own citizens.
Your own
That's what it's to manipulate not just your enemies, unless you believe your own citizens are your enemies, which
they might.
a darker way to think of it, right?
Yeah.
But I'll say, because it's the dictionary and the specificity is pretty much the only thing that matters when it comes to controlling definitions. I think it's a little misleading to say that it's simply influencing the enemy's state of mind. I would question even the use of military operation too, but it's fifth generation warfare. This seems like a definite. Maybe they haven't actually changed this definition yet, because this does sound like an early 1900s operation.
There is a second definition here, but amongst the quotes, it does say a CIA PSYOP campaign is one of the examples here.
Yeah.
This is the second definition: someone or something used by the government to influence the population's opinions and attitudes.
Okay.
So that's a little bit more broad. I think that fits a little more with what we're talking about with
someone or something. That's a very interesting, it's a very broad, but also very specific way to describe it. It's either a person or an object or a
non-human intelligence
or a non-human entity used by the government to influence the population's opinions and attitudes. If we wanted to go real deep, we could plop this into the Wayback Machine and see if they've changed it.
Yeah, I mean, we don't have to go that deep today, but it's just interesting that they're doing it. They do say that the first known use was in 1965, which is not true, Merriam-Webster. If you're listening, we do have documents from the 1950s. From the Truman era of the Psychological Strategy Board using the phrase psychological operation in their documentation.
It's conjunction. Maybe it's the conjunction of
the PSYOP. Yeah, maybe PSYOP. Sure. Okay.
Why don't you pop over to psychological operation, see if they have anything else for that.
Let's see. Does that? Okay, let me have to psychological.
You have to spell the words. If only you had a dictionary to learn how to spell the word.
Oh, they don't have like the full phrase.
Did you spell it right? Psychological operation. I think so. Although I'm not the best.
I know the spelling.
Yeah, that's interesting. That is interesting. They have the conjunction PSYOP, but they did not define psychological operation. Well, see, that's how they can avoid saying that the I guess the idea of a PSYOP existed before 1967 or whatever they said.
Yeah, they're time stamping themselves. Yeah. So anyway, there's a sense one. Maybe this just goes back to the definition. Okay. All right. Well, there you go.
Just going to point out, 1965 was about when they started. Well, yeah. I'm sure there's a lot of, Cuba Missile Crisis was around there, but also just a few years before we landed on the moon.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah, 60s was a very important year. Yeah. So it's an interesting word to highlight there, Merriam-Webster, and interesting that it's hitting my timeline too.
Don't worry, they wouldn't be tweeting about it if it was something to worry about.
They're setting everybody up for a massive PSYOP by saying, here's a definition, and no, this post is not a PSYOP, which is very
it's almost threatening that they're even bothering to say, we promise this isn't one.
That makes it even more suspicious. But what are you gonna do?
Well, perfect. That's a perfect segue into our next segment here, Guns. Let's talk about the CIA.
We always play that little ISO before we talk about the CIA because that's a clip of I forget the guy's name. He was on Fox News several years ago. It was the ex-CIA, and they were asking him.
Anyway,
was that?
Yeah, keep going. Sorry,
I forget who it was. But anyway, they were talking about going into other countries and messing with their elections and things of that nature.
In history, how the CIA
in the past. And I believe, I'm trying to remember the lady, a very popular anchor lady.
A 60 Minutes thing or something.
Was it a 60? I think it was just like an in-studio interview. But anyway, they were asking, and they said, "Oh, we don't do that anymore, do we?" Laura Ingraham, that's what it was. And she said, "We don't do that anymore, do we?" And the guy went, "Well, num. That was his answer on mainstream media, live TV interview, or maybe recorded, and they just let it out there. But yeah, num was his answer to do we do covert operations in other countries today? So okay.
Yeah, well, which in hindsight feels like it was at the beginning stages of where we are now.
Yeah, that's true.
Why don't you just get us into this article here? 'Cause
Okay. Yes. All right. I think it'll just explain itself here. So this is coming from the New York Post. And the headline, it's less about the story and more about us analyzing what's going on here. But the headline is Tonight on Conspiracies and Cover-Ups. Who controls the weather? The answer might surprise you. This week's episode of Conspiracies and Cover-Ups deals with the weather, something we all contend with but have absolutely no power over. M-dash. Or do we? From chemtrails to cloud seeding, space lasers, and government weather weapons, join host and former CIA covert intelligence officer Andrew Bustamante as he investigates if weather control conspiracies actually hold any water. Dun, 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 dun. So they're doing an episode on geo.
They haven't said where this show airs.
Oh, yeah,
yet.
yeah. Okay, hold on one second. It's geoengineering. Andrew will quiz experts on the deluge of theories surrounding weather control, looking at the science and examining the skepticism. There's a graphic there for it. His investigation will include a candid interview with the controversial leader of a cloud seeding company and explore claims around chemtrails, and an aviation engineer who explains why aircraft contrails happen and why they're often believed to be deliberate spraying.
I love it.
Give
even in the ad for the show, remember when there was that big flood in Texas and there was that cloud seeding company that everybody started yelling at,
Yes.
and the CEO, who was like 25 years old, he was a
young
Peter
guy.
Thiel connected 25-year-old CEO. I think he had a mullet. He was suddenly going on everybody's podcast.
Yeah,
You know, this
explaining the
horrible
thing.
flood happened and all these young people died, and it's very sad. And then people, it turns out his company had been cloud seeding like 2 miles away or something crazy.
Right.
And
yeah.
so everybody's like,
Well,
well,
we sat there and listened to the explanation too, and he's like, "Well, it dissipates right away. The amount
it's
that
all the
we're
same
doing,
stuff.
yeah,
It sounds like you're listening to a big pharma CEO talk about vaccines on ABC or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, then the 25-year-old CEO with a mullet starts going, not on the news, not on the mainstream news. He starts going on everybody's podcast, which I think is a great little clue into how this analysis will go a little bit deeper. Okay,
Yep. Continuing on with the article, he'll also be given rare access beneath Denver International Airport, a hotbed of conspiracy theories in its own right, for a tour of tunnel systems that have fueled speculation about secret bunkers and doomsday survival infrastructure for the elite, putting widespread internet mythology surrounding the travel hub under the microscope.
They're going old school. Denver Airport.
Wow.
This is like old school stuff. Right?
It's old school, but yeah. I think with the recent shut, I think there was a power outage at the Denver International. During the month-long Iran operation, there was all the government shutdown stuff. Which, by the way, are we still shut down, or are we done with that yet? The whole TSA and FEMA. Okay, all right. Anyway,
no, I know. There's always. I'm not saying that nobody's talked about the Denver airport. I'm just saying the Denver airport, that has been a focus of the conspiracy theories for like 20 or at least 20
it's been a long
years.
time.
Close to 20 years. And of course, we know all the weird murals and all that. Like, they asked for it, right? This was not. This was not a random conspiracy theory. When you put up murals in your airport that shows like one world governments like enslaving children and gas masks and like sabers and like weird stuff. So, and I point out that this is kind of like old school. It's an old school one to show that they're really catering to like the actual conspiracy theory people. Right. This is not like new. This is like, oh, you're going to get the old school conspiracy theorists, or at least cater to them, or to try to draw them in, or, not make it all about, I don't know, whatever's going on now. It shows that they're putting a lot of work and energy into really bringing this community, or this, I don't know what to call it, this movement, this real movement of like conspiracy theories to actual television, and address them all on actual television. Now, we can
it's like a bridging, I think, going on
we can
here.
pretty
There's
much
some gaps.
guarantee where they're going to land on all these conspiracy theories,
Yeah.
but keep going because it gets even
Okay,
better.
all right. So they're touching on another one here. Episode 3 in the series will also test claims that fires are being deliberately manipulated as part of geoengineering or land grab conspiracies, partnering with one of the nation's leading fire research labs to conduct controlled ignition experiments to determine how fires actually start and spread.
Jewish space
Andrew.
lasers.
Yeah,
They're
I
doing
know.
Jewish
They're doing
space
Jewish
lasers.
space. I know.
I'm serious.
Andrew.
They're doing it all. They're very educated.
So they rounded out here. Andrew will be joined this week by guests including Augustus Dorico. I think he's the guy, the cloud seeding guy, founder and CEO of Rainmaker. Shelby Bainfield, chemical engineer and aircraft mechanic and owner of the flight school at Meadow Lake. Michael Kanopasik, Denver International Airport spokesperson, and probably Freemason. And Mark Finney and Natalie Wagenbrenner, 2 researchers with the U.S. Forest Service. Along for the ride.
So to give you the truth about all of these conspiracy theories, we will be bringing you the representatives, the explicit representatives from the institutions who would have the most incentive to lie to you about these conspiracy theories.
Well, do you remember the story about the deep state? We have a song about it. Do you recall, Basil? Let me play a little bit of it.
The deep state and the swamp. Swamp the deep state. Swamp the deep state.
Okay, it's going to take a while. It's a 1-minute clip, but basically the deep state, the way the mainstream media catalog the deep state was that anybody who works in government. So like the people
your mailman is
your mailman is deep state, all these guys.
Yeah.
So in that context, they're going to the deep state for the source.
Right.
This is the deep state exposing themselves. Along for the ride will be New York Post freelancer Eric Spitznagel. This is why the New York Post is in on this. The latest episode of the series, produced in cooperation with the Texas Crew Productions and New York Post Entertainment. There we go. Premiered last week on the Discovery Channel.
Discovery Channel. They're going mainstream, baby. I love it. Now they're going to be talking about all the coolest conspiracy theories. It's all the stuff you really want the truth. We're going to get it straight from the horse's mouth and talk to all the institutions that are incentivized to debunk or pre-bunk any misconceptions about their dark, shadowy conspiracies. And it's going to be on the Discovery Channel.
I mean, even worse, the last 2 sentences of this article. If you want to tune in to tonight's Conspiracies and Cover-Ups premiere for free, you can stream it with a DirecTV free trial. DirecTV is currently offering 5 days free and $35 off your first month. How much is it? How much does it cost a month to do DirecTV?
A little native advertising there.
I mean, this is right back to the major mainstream media. You got Warner Brothers in there.
Well, you know what's interesting?
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, but
go for it.
Your version that you opened earlier is actually missing the next sentence, which they must have added just recently. Okay. And it says, additionally, new episodes of Conspiracies and Cover-Ups will stream on HBO Max the morning after.
All like the establishment media outlets are.
So this is the point. Now we're building it. Let's paint the picture here, everybody.
Okay.
Because we've all, Discovery Channel is super mainstream, but also, they also have like documentaries on mermaids. They also
Which was fake, by the way. That was a big psyop.
But they sold it as true, right? That was the thing. This is Discovery Channel. They do Ancient Aliens, which is not about debunking aliens. The mermaid documentary.
Do Ancient Aliens? I thought that was History Channel. I guess it's all under the same umbrella.
They're all owned by the same company. So, but even let's just take the collection of fringy, weirdo topic mainstream media, right? You've got Ancient Aliens, which tries really hard to convince you. There's very, I mean, I never watched it religiously, but there's very little trying to debunk ancient aliens on ancient aliens.
Right. No,
had
it's
the
quite the
mermaid-
opposite. It's the punchline is aliens for everything. So yeah, that's
mermaid documentary, which was all about how mermaids are real. They had the dragon documentary, which is all about how dragons are like
Shark
every
Week.
yeah, it's Sharknado, Rugrats. I mean, how many more TV shows can we name? But the idea is like, oh, we can have these weird things for the weirdos and we can play them late at nights and, you know, we'll make a bunch of money and participate in this sort of subculture. Well, in this case, conspiracies and cover-ups sounds like, oh, let's go. Let's talk about geoengineering. Let's talk about these things.
Yeah.
But at least in this press release is explicitly about debunking these things as if they had not done a good enough job debunking them online, which is
Do you think
true.
it's all about debunking, or do you think it's like little nuggets of truth or that conspiracies theorists, were right about? Because that's kind of the
No,
tone
the
of
way
it.
I read this, they talk about how they're debunking it. They're saying, well,
yeah.
we talk about chemtrails and cloud seeding, and we'll be talking to, this official flight person, I forgot what they called
Right.
her. She's some sort of scientist of flying or something.
Okay.
Now, even
I
the
just,
Denver airport, we'll be talking to the spokespeople at the Denver airport.
spokesperson, which, by the way, they have a plaque there that says that the Freemasons built the airport. So
Yeah.
there you
And
go.
what
I mean,
they're
it's
not
just self-evident.
saying is like, oh, this episode will include Gans Shimura, who is here to
Yeah.
tell us about the the pro conspiracy side, and we'll have this other guy to give you to debunk it, right? They're not even saying that. They're saying, tune in here to have all the conspiracies debunked, which, they might just be trying to like target conspiracy debunking enthusiasts or something, kind of the whoever. But the interesting thing is, and we kind of zoomed over it, but there's a name in there that a lot of people might remember. And that is the host of the show, former CIA covert intelligence officer, Andrew Bustamante. Now, we've brought Andrew Bustamante to the show before because he's been a CIA. He's proudly a CIA guy. And he's a podcaster. He has his own podcast. He goes on other people's podcasts. He does YouTube stuff. He's one of, in the class of CIA influencers, like Sean Ryan, et cetera, where we've sort of identified over the past couple of years what seems to be the CIA recognizing we are losing control of effective narrative control by only controlling like what's on the news, right? Through
right.
What's that guy's name? Shepard.
I don't know.
What's his
I don't know who
name?
you're talking about.
He's the what's his name? He's the news reader who has clear CIA connections, but he's on like CNBC and things like that. Shoot, somebody in the chat, give me that guy's name. But Project Mockingbird, right? So Project Mockingbird, for generations now, CIA controls the narrative with secret CIA guys in the media taking cues from the CIA. That's how we control the population. Then, 2016, 2020 rolls around and everybody recognizes, oh, mainstream is dead. Nobody believes the mainstream. Mainstream has totally lost control of the narrative, and it's the Wild West online, and specifically it's the Wild West in podcasting. Everybody's getting their news, everybody's getting their ideas about the world from podcasting. So then we watched over a number of years Tucker Carlson CIA connection, Sean Ryan CIA connection, and this fellow Andrew Bustamante. Now, we brought this.
I was going to say, we brought the name Andrew Bustamante. I remember bringing him up because I signed up to his email list, which was, it was a thing a few years ago. I was like,
CIA skills, to help
CIA
everyday life or something.
So I'd go into my inbox just now, Basil. Literally, the email that came in, the top email is from Everyday Spy. Okay, this is
That's
Everyday
Andrew
Spy is the
Bustamante.
name of Andrew Bustamante's thing.
Yeah.
And the email
That's perfect.
is it reads like this: the subject line, "The simple trick to connect with anyone." And it says it says here, whether you're an introvert or an extrovert, mastering rapport is key to getting what you want in life. Remote tribes of the blah, 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 blah. Spies use a simple method to build rapport consistently, and it starts with giving to get. This means giving something first to get something in return. Give praise to get friendship. Give support to get trust. Give attention to get love.
CIA finding lots of ways to affect the podcasting space, including getting your favorite podcaster Gons to read about how CIA skills can help them.
It's just crazy. It's like, here's how you can deceive people into supporting you. Like,
so
it's just wild, man.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because the clip that we brought from Andrew Bustamante rolls into another pattern we had seen, which is not only the CIA taking over podcasting space, but the CIA explicitly presenting themselves as Christians and representatives of Christianity, and bringing part of the swell of Christianity recently has included CIA podcasters beginning to integrate explicit Christianity into their podcasts. Now, which came first? Who knows? Did they purposefully make Christianity popular, or did they see Christianity getting popular and then use that to ingratiate themselves to a broader public? Who knows, chicken or the egg? But this is Andrew Bustamante and his comments about finding Jesus.
Love doing is reading the Bible since CIA. Right?
Since CIA.
Yeah. Reading the Bible before CIA was a cool experience. Reading the Bible after CIA is a mind-boggling experience.
So you weren't reading it during.
I had better to do. Better to do during.
It's like, I gotta go hang this guy.
If you think about some of the most famous quotes from the Bible, right? There will be poor always. Right? There will always be poor people.
I don't know if that's what it actually says, but okay.
No, the poor you will always have with you, but you won't always have me. But I love the phrase, my favorite quote from the Bible. It's an interesting little shibboleth, I think, if somebody's either maybe newly Christian or trying to represent themselves as Christian, maybe a little bit more than is the truth. My favorite quote from the Bible, as if it's like a book or a screenplay, where, most, I would say, mature Christians would naturally say my favorite scripture in the Bible.
Right. Well, I guess my thing with just saying that that's not exactly in the Bible is for him to kind of use that as like a target audience or like a manipulative opportunity or something. I don't know. Maybe I'm just reading too much into what
he explains it. Don't worry. He explains why this is right now.
That's as objective as it gets. Why the hell are we trying to save them? What did Jesus say to do with the oil? Put oil on my feet, don't save it for others. Right? Because there's always going to be poor people. There won't be enough oil for those poor people, but to soothe my head and soothe my feet right now is worth your oil. You go back through all of the Old Testament and you've got multiple examples of just war, multiple examples of eradicating entire populations just because a prophet believed that was what God wanted them to do, right? And it was justified. You've got, even among the tribes of Jews, you have tribes that were better than other tribes that were more important, more honorable, given higher esteem than other tribes. So you can see this pragmatism, you can see the hierarchy, even through the Bible, when you look at it through that objective lens.
Okay, before we move on, again, just war is a very interesting concept to bring about, while the CIA being the mastermind behind all kinds of conflicts around the world. One could argue maybe they are the main culprit of pretty much all geopolitical conflicts that have existed in the last 50 years.
That's the point he's making here. He ties it all in.
It's teaching to be objective. I would have argued Jesus and many of his teachings, the fundamentals of espionage are in Jesus' original teaching.
The fundamentals of espionage are from Jesus.
That's what I would say.
Can you please explain this?
So there's a phenomenal story where Jesus is teaching a parable, and he says that the place to sit when you go to a guest's table, right? You go to a guest's table. The best thing to do is sit at the end of the table, and then wait for the host to invite you to sit at their right hand side, right? What's he teaching us there? He's teaching us to act humble, to be rewarded for the humility that you demonstrate, to actually elevate yourself to a higher social status. That's a powerful lesson, right? Everybody out there now, the average Joe is out there competing to try to prove that they're worth the seat at the side of the master. That's what they all want to do. That's why Instagram exists. That's why TikTok exists. That's why you see 1,000 people, all competing to be on reality TV shows, because everybody wants to be famous. They all want to be, hey, I'm worth being at the right-hand side of the master.
Right.
Jesus is saying, no, put yourself at the end of the table, let the master invite you up. Because one of the things he says is powerful about that isn't just that you sit at the right hand of the master, it's that every other person at the table, that's direct quote from the Bible, every other person.
I was going to let it go.
Everybody else at the table watches the master point you out, and they watch you walk past them. And all of that is additional influence and power, right?
Yeah.
It's just, who was Jesus Christ? He was God the Father. He's part of the Holy Trinity, come to earth as a man. If that's not disguise, I don't know what disguise is.
No, you're taking it literally.
And then he lived among the people, right? Carrying flesh and blood and a death, right? Carrying a life that could be taken away. All of that is a perfect parallel with what it's like to actually live and work undercover. Everybody around you believes you're one thing, you're not. And even though you break cover with some people, right? Just like Jesus broke cover and he told the people he was the Son of God, even though you a few people what your true affiliation is, there's still a shadow of doubt. And they're still like, yeah, are you really? That's why he was denied, right? Paul denied him, Peter denied him, somebody denied him, Peter.
I think it was Peter, yeah. 3 times.
Yeah, right? So he was denied, even though Peter arguably knew the truth. So it's so powerful, man. And that's just like 2 quick examples. If you actually want to sit down and get geeked out with like a parallel Bible, we can find lots of examples.
Oh, cool.
Bust out the CIA parallel Bible.
Cool. Awesome.
Oh,
awesome. We let it roll a little bit long, but it's real.
Okay. It's a 3-minute clip. It's we've broken down every bit of this before.
Yeah, we don't need to break apart the thing. But the real kicker is that phrase when he says, I forget what it was. It's something about espionage. Everything that Jesus teaches is how to do
foundations of espionage or something. Yeah.
I kind of want to go find the clip again, or the point. But you get the point. So that's Andrew Bustamante. He's a podcaster, CIA guy.
He got a haircut. He got a haircut for conspiracies and cover.
Yeah, you can't put him on mainstream television with that big crazy hair.
That's true. You're right. You're right. He's got to clean up. That's
So it's very interesting because we've seen now and we've tracked it sort of live, because you pay attention to these little things. You can actually watch it happen live. It's easy now to kind of look back and put it all together. But we saw the CIA and others, but CIA being one good example, lose control of the narrative via mainstream media, which had worked for them for decades and decades and decades. Ever since TV was invented, controlling the media was a way to effectively control what most people think and do. You might call it psyops. Thank you, Merriam-Webster's dictionary. But around 2020, people started dropping from the mainstream like flies and flocking to online, YouTube shows, podcasts, whatever. Then we saw it as it's happening. The mainstream media and the CIA had slowly started to leave the mainstream and find their way into the quote independent or alternative media, starting podcasts. The biggest of which, Sean Ryan, you'll know, Tucker Carlson, you'll know, Andrew Bustamante, all 3 of those guys also involved in sort of promoting Christianity in their own special way. Like Andrew, Christianity's great. You should get saved because it teaches you how to be a spy.
That's a whole new angle to the gospel there. Yeah.
Not to claim, by the way, that I know the status of Andrew's salvation. I hope and pray that he's truly, authentically saved by Jesus. But it's a funny thing to say anyways. So now we're here, though. That brings us to present. And we're seeing the whole online podcast information flow get rattled apart, right? From AI to podcaster battles, Alex Jones versus Candace Owens versus Tucker versus everybody's shaking apart. People are trusting what they see and hear on online, on podcasts, on the timeline, less and less and less, as they should, by the way. And there's this implication that you hear a lot in the sort of more institutional commentary, but the implication is, Oh, the internet's just too crazy. You can't trust anything. You can't trust anybody, from AI to conspiracy theorists. We need to get back to a source of truth, right? And yet CIA taking over that alternative space. Now they're looking around and going, "Oh no, we need to get back to the mainstream media. What are we doing? Let's take what we've learned here from the podcast media and bring it back to mainstream media, bring it back to the Discovery Channel, talk about all the same conspiracy theories. Now we have the language and we have the reputation and we have, kind of the street cred to go back to mainstream media, talk about all the conspiracy theories, and do what we do best, which is, disabuse anybody of any idea that what we're supposed to think is going on isn't actually going on. I mean, it seems like a pretty brilliant move to me.
It's, it kind of reminds me, and maybe they just got this blueprint from the Bible itself. Speaking of which, just before I say that, the Warner Brothers is the sort of the conglomerate behind the Discovery is Warner Brothers. It's Warner Brothers Discovery as one entity, and just
Right.
the list of channels they have: HGTV, Food Network, TLC, Animal Planet, Travel Channel, Science Channel. I mean, it just goes on and on. TNT, TBS, True TV,
Yeah,
Cartoon
HBO
Network.
too. HBO Max being a big one.
Yeah. So is HBO part? I think A&E. Well,
No,
A&E
no.
holds
HBO Max is a Warner Brothers Discovery
Warner Brothers.
product.
Okay, so they hold a lot of the real estate when it comes to mainstream stuff. But I'm wondering if this is kind of like, if I'm trying to find a biblical parallel here, because that they went to the Bible to find some examples to figure out some operatives. The whole idea of the Jews becoming a stumbling block for the fullness of the Gentiles. And I don't know if that's making sense to you, Basil, but you know what I'm talking about? Where it's like there will be a partial hardening of the Jews so that the Gentiles can come in. It's almost like that, where the mainstream media, there's a partial hardening so that they can get everybody else and kind of rally them in. And then eventually it'll be one, house of Israel once everything is restored.
Yeah, well,
It's that kind of model to like get everybody out there, harvest, and then everyone kind of comes back.
Well, people are sort of hardening their hearts to alternative media.
Right.
Now.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
All
It's
the
that's the opposite
podcast
version of it,
battles and all that kind of stuff. People are
Yeah,
tuning out. And if you tune out of that, I mean, you still got to sit down on your couch and watch something. You're just going to flip over to Discovery Channel. It's innocent enough.
I did come up with the
Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'd come up with a list of a short list of podcasters who publicly state that they are ex or former CIA. And some of these I know, some of these I don't. But Andrew Bustamante, obviously. John Kirikow, John Kirikow's Dead Drop is an ex-CIA officer. Brian Dean Wright, The Wright Report. I don't know. I've never heard that before, but apparently it's a former CIA guy with his own podcast. Mike Baker and the President's Daily Brief is on iHeartRadio. He's a former CIA. Michael Morell, Intelligence Matters. Apple and CBS describe him as former acting director of the CIA.
Did you make this list, or did AI make this list, or did
I asked AI, and I did go back and check some of these. And yes, in the
I'm sure
description
it's a huge list.
I mean, I'm sure. Yeah, it's a like, I can go on and on. It's just it's a thing. It's a real thing, and it's not something we're making up or just if anyone's wondering. So there's that. But going into the whole podcast thing here, the dismantling of the podcast. Did you have something to say before we jump into that? Because
I guess not. I would say if anybody's sort of questioning, why even pay attention to this stuff, and in a way, not to overstate it, this might be one of the most important conversations that people should be having, because as we know, the psyops, the social engineering, all that, which is the specialty of CIA, by the way, has the whole, I guess, atmosphere, and each and every one of us sort of individually feeling worn out, feeling, again, hardening our hearts to various sources of information. And what happens when people get a little overwhelmed like that, they start to revert back to, previous things. This kind of applies across the board when it comes to humanity, once you get overwhelmed and overstressed, that's why the phrase "you're only as good as your training" is concerned. Once things get hard, you always revert back to the sort of simplest simplest way of doing things. That's why you want to
Right.
build muscle memory, and that's why you want to do all these things. And so it feels like we could be watching a really sophisticated operation to turn people back to easy, no-brainer ways of not just getting information, but seeing the world, how you
Right.
perceive the world. Because the
Yeah.
language and the information that you take on a daily basis decides how you see the world. And it happens slowly too. It's not all aha
Yeah.
moments. It
Right.
can incrementally nudge and bump you to a worldview that by the time, whatever, a year goes by, you could have a completely different worldview, but not even notice and not even realize that it was sort of done on purpose. It feels like you have perceived the world for yourself and you've come to these decisions. So we're really seeing an interesting long-term operation that way, it feels like.
Yeah. And it's, I talk to people who are in my life that are, I guess we can call them normies. And it's just hilarious when they pull up, like, have you heard this podcast? And it's, 9 out of 10 times it's this ex-CIA guy talking about important things. But this is a report from MiDiaResearch.com. And I don't know the credibility necessarily of MiDia research, but they had a headline here: podcasting's next growth frontier, tackling the unconverted. And they reference some things here. Let me see. I thought I had this highlighted. Okay, so the article starts off. It says a lot of attention is being paid to the rules of engagement for podcasting, formatting, yada yada yada. The industry is deeply focused on how and where audiences are consuming podcasts, and rightfully so. But a significant part of the story is missing. And so they talk about the forgotten percentage here. And it says here, MIDIA's latest audio report that 2025 audio consumer profile highlights that the percentage of people who have yet to engage with podcasts globally is sizable. We're not alone in spotting this trend. The Sounds Profitable newsletter recently found that 25% of U.S. consumers do not engage with podcasts at all. So 1 in 4. So that's, a sizable amount.
That feels like a really low number compared to the history of podcasting, though.
It says
that number was
engage at all.
99% back in 2012.
Yeah, I know. It seems minuscule compared to what it was. But I mean, it says dude does not engage at all. So, I think most people nowadays,
like they're presenting this 25% number as like, whoa, look at all these people who still need to be engaged, 25%. But if you go back to 2020, even 2020, that number is going to be 80% of U.S. consumers do not engage with podcasts at all. So their report, which is probably like for sales and to get clients and stuff, they're saying, wow, look at this whole 25% that people don't even know about podcasts. We can get them. But they're not including the context of 25% compared to even a couple of years ago is crazy. You mean 3 in 4 people are regularly listening to podcasts? That might not sound crazy to somebody now, especially in the past couple of years, but to old school podcasters, that's insane.
Yeah. So they talk about the strategies that we need to use to reach that extra 25%. This MIDIA research is saying we need to figure out what's going on with the disengaged, their demographics, their habits, their behaviors. They talk about the platform wars have been necessary. Understanding how the engaged behave has been valuable. However, if podcasting wants to grow beyond its current ceiling, the focus should move beyond preaching to the converted and toward the unconverted. They need like an outreach, and they need the seeker-friendly podcast. This requires a shift in both research priorities and marketing strategy. Rather than concentrating primarily on what works for current listeners, the industry needs a clearer understanding of which consumer segments are not engaging with podcasts, why that resistance exists, and what might shift it? Answering these questions represent the next frontier of podcast growth. So they don't give us the answer. They say, you give us money and we'll tell you. We'll research it for you. So there's that. So that's sort of one end of what's presumably, I would argue, maybe the ceiling of podcasting currently. That we're not going to get too much more engagement, which I guess it's pretty high already. If 75% of the consuming public in America anyway are engaged with podcasts, that's pretty high.
The audio consuming public, they call it.
Right, the audio consuming. So, and
Yeah,
I guess
again, which they're trying to present it as an opportunity to how to get that last
Right.
25%. I see that as, it's totally saturated.
It's over, right? It's over.
You're never
Yeah.
going to get 100%. You're never going
Right.
to get that last quarter. So what they're really saying, but they're saying the opposite. Okay,
Right,
they're trying to say the opposite, but the numbers they're saying is basically, there's no, that's it. Podcast is basically at the level or now lower than its peak. And what I read is it's no longer in the interest, in their case, to marketers, advertisers, etc. But in another case, the CIA, or those hoping to control narrative, those interested in social engineering, podcasting is saturated. So therefore, get your CIA boys, get them off the podcast mic, get them back
time to
on Discovery Channel.
Yeah,
Get them on Discovery Channel. That's the only way to grow. That's the only way to get the message out.
Well, it's a great way to bridge the gap too, because now you have all these supposed independent podcasters out there who are CIA ops. As they come back to the mainstream, they will bring back. It's the Exodus. It's the prodigal son. They're going to come back to mainstream, and we will welcome them with open arms with conspiracies and cover-ups. We're going to cater to your, the reason why you even went to podcasting in the first place was because you wanted answers. Well, just you're home now. We'll give you the right answers.
Well, that's from a business perspective, that's a good reason for Discovery to bring on the famous CIA podcaster Andrew Bustamante, because Bustamante has all these fans online. He's got all this, he grew his credibility. People love him. People follow him. And those people, again, because they're alt media people and they're listening to podcasts and watching YouTube, they aren't watching Discovery Channel. So therefore, if we get Andrew Bustamante on the channel, we can pick up a whole bunch of alternative media folks, bringing them back to the traditional mainstream media. I mean, it's genius. It's like the phase 3 of a multi-year, probably longer, but like 6-year operation for mainstream media and the powers that sustain it. Hello, Big Pharma. Hello, CIA. Hello, all those sort of,
when you consider the thread of not just sort of the exodus from the mainstream media, but also in conjunction with the rise of Christianity, you can see how, you and I, Basil, I think we represent, in whatever small way, maybe like the genuine part of a true independent media that kind of stepped away from mainstream media, and as Christians sort of seeking truth and putting our foot down for Jesus and all that kind of stuff in opposition to the entire beast system and the whole thing. It would make sense that in order to bring everybody back in, you need the proper bait. And so because a lot of the people, the Christians were, I'm assuming, kind of truth-seeking Christians, made up a large part of the initial exodus outside of the mainstream to create content and to seek things out. And again, maybe we were part of some of that, because I started in 2011. The podcast started in 2012. We've been at it for a while, but it was definitely back then there was a feeling like, oh wow, there's a movement happening here of Christians sort of waking up to stuff. And there was movies like Age of Aquarius and guys like Chris White and PID Radio and Tom Horn and Russ Dizdar and Rob Skiba, all these guys, I'm going to forget names, but they were coming out of it was our generation coming out of the nonsense of mainstream and getting tired of it, and having that ability to create our own content and just seek it out for ourselves instead of getting spoon-fed by the media. And because it was Christians, it was like, okay, in order to bring everybody back in, we need two things. We need one, we need the ultimate moment to really get everybody out, so we can maybe, replug some stuff in-house in terms of the mainstream media. So we'll do COVID. That'll really shake things up. And then when we start really kicking up the podcast realm, we can present it as Christianity, or like some kind of quasi-Christianity or something. And
Yeah,
then
I mean, I think what you're
bait.
saying simply is that, yes, you go where the Christians are, present yourself as Christian, and then move things back to the mainstream.
Right, pull them back into the mainstream. Right. So, okay, but so there's another pressure point here when it comes to podcasting. It's not just the fact that, we're sort of saturated. There's also this problem coming from podnews.net, and this is more new AI generated podcasts than human ones. And it says here in the note, is podcasting being flooded with AI slop? For news shows, that's us, Basil, news shows, it seems normal. Human-made podcasts are now in the minority, according to the Podcast Index, which is something that our friend Adam Curry had put together. Visible on the Podcast Index's new feeds report. At the time of writing, this was published today, it shows only 44.6% of new shows in the last 24 hours were, quote, likely legitimate, with 45.7% potentially produced by AI. So not only is there a problem of like, hey, we just kind of oversaturated podcasts listenership, over half, or maybe about half of the podcasts that are being published now, the new ones, are just made out of AI. It's not even real humans talking anymore. It's just AI people talking.
Yeah.
I mean, that's so we're competing with not just the ceiling of, hey, we're kind of saturated in terms of podcast audience. We're also competing with all the AI podcasts coming out every day. I'm feeling the pressure. I'm feeling the heat.
I mean, I could see how news podcasts would be particularly easy to automate with AI. You get your AI agent. It picks the top 10 articles for the day. It automatically summarizes them. It automatically puts a voice on it, and then posting is no big problem.
Right.
So, that is disturbing. Now, it's always been a big question for us, Gons, on a personal note. Will AI destroy us? I mean, in all this fear of who's going to survive the AI job apocalypse. We used to be much more confident than we are today about whether we're going to be out of a job. But the real question is, not how many automated AI agents are posting podcasts, but how many people are actually listening to them,
Well, I think it's the bots that are listening to it. It's other agentic AI that are listening to it.
Right.
Then,
Well, that's also true. Yeah, there's been a few giant fake download busts recently. And it's funny because, again, we don't take advertising. We're on value for value. So if there's a podcast out there who exists strictly to get advertising dollars, it's trying to get all the bots to collect fake downloads, to collect real advertising dollars for fake advertisements, whatever, that's pretty outside of our threat vector. We're not competing for advertising dollars for so many reasons, but it may be just that, Gons, that lets us survive the AI podcast job apocalypse.
We've survived a lot in the last 15 years, and I don't see us slowing down unless the Lord really shows us that it's over.
And you know why, Gons? You know why we've survived this long?
Value for value?
There you go. Say it with some gusto, Gons. It's the value for
value. This thing right here.
Value for value. We take no money from corporations, commies, or cartels.
I'll tell you what, not just for our benefit, Gons, but for the benefit of our listeners and producers, value for value is how you keep human podcasters alive.
It's
If
very
you don't
true.
keep the human podcasters alive, the ones who aren't incentivized to fake advertising numbers and just pump out whatever they can and just get fake views or whatever, if you, as a person who wants a quality place to get your information, if you want to survive the podcast AI apocalypse, value for value is basically the only way to do it, because any human podcast out there is going to be competing for AI advertising dollars. And it's only a matter of time before that, maybe there's obviously people pulling it off right now, but it's just a matter of time, baby. Just a matter of time before there's no, AI dollars left, or there's not enough advertising dollars left to support human podcasters.
Did you see there was a shoe company called All Birds? Speaking of, because we're Canary Cry, we're bird logo. The All Birds shifted from shoes to AI, and their stock went up like 18x or something.
Yeah, it's very similar to the iced tea company who just put the word blockchain in their corporate name and shot up like 1,400%.
I was going to say it's a similar type of, I guess, bubble or trend or something, but it's probably not going to last.
Yeah, but if their claim is real, they're actually stopping making shoes and going towards some AI data center thing. So it's good for them. Yeah.
From what I understand,
to survive guns, we just say it's not Canary Cry News Talk, it's Canary Cry AI Data Center.
I don't think people would like that, but from what I understand, they had like a $1 billion or $4 billion valuation at some point with their stock, and they got offered $1 billion and they turned it down, and the guy said, "We're going to 100 billion," and then it just went straight down, and then they were down to $20 million market cap or something, so they had to pivot to AI. Maybe this is their exit strategy or something.
Business talk with guys.
Business talk
with companies you've never heard of. All right, we're on the value for value model, and in case you didn't know, we don't take any money from advertisers, corporations, commies, cartels, the Vatican, the CIA, as far as we know, because we have a spiritual and ethical problem when it comes to advertising, which is just a special name for farming as much attention of yours as we possibly can and turning around and selling it, which is kind of a trade that's a little nasty, because it's not just your attention, but it's your trust, your consciousness, your time, all the things that other shows do not value. And you can tell they don't value it because they'll every 8 minutes put in 3 minutes of advertisements so that they can suck you dry and get all that sweet advertising dollars. But none of that here. We're entirely funded, sustained by the time, talent, and treasure of our producers. Who are the producers? Well, they're people just like you who get it. They really get it. They go, "Oh, okay, I get it now." And you know what? I get value from Canary Cry. I want to keep getting value from Canary Cry. And so I'm going to put some value back in. Again, with your time, your talent, your treasure. There's lots of ways to do it. It's not just about money. If you're an artist or a musician, you can create something for the show. Go to canarycry.art, upload it there. If you got time on your hands and skills, you want to help us out with whatever it takes to keep this thing going, you can go to canarycry.support, scroll all the way down to the bottom of that page, and you'll see a form you can fill out to help us out. Where would we be without our producers who help us out with all this stuff, Gons? Nowhere. That's where. But if all else fails and you want to support the show financially, which of course, unfortunately, in this world is required to keep things going, again, just go to canarycry.support and you can support the show in any amount. Just pray about it, think about it, whatever number the Lord puts on your heart, whatever feels like a quality value exchange, you can just go there, support the show in that amount. And a big old shout out to our monthly producers. Whether you're on the supply drop or the t-shirt council, or you just come in, you support monthly with whatever that means for you on a monthly basis. Very, very grateful. It's there's obviously been some serious dwindling down in individual producerships for individual episodes. Part of that is seasonal. Part of that is just we're in a different time. It's not 2022 anymore. Part of it is just
We need stimmy checks from the government, as I think.
sometimes it might just be PayPal or Stripe or something just tells you,
Yeah.
nope, sorry, you don't get to produce. There is a slight dwindling when it comes to the monthly producerships, but thankfully, a lot of times people don't even know that PayPal has like stopped their monthly,
Yeah.
transaction. So I recommend anybody, if you think you're on a monthly producership, please go check that. Make sure it's still going. It's really annoying because when it happens for people on the supply drop or the T-shirt council and they don't know it or realize it until they don't receive what they were expecting to receive, that's very sad. So go make sure that's doing that now. And if you're not a supporter of the show in any way, I beg you. Just think about it, okay? Just think about it. It's non-transactional. It's totally voluntary. We do not put walls up around anything that God's doing here. And we ultimately are sustained by his grace. So if you want to be an agent of God's grace, go to canarycry.support. All right. Our executive producers, by the way, are people who come in and they support any individual show like this for $100 or more. And thankfully, Gons, we got a couple coming in. You want to hear about them?
Absolutely. Yes.
Okay. We're going to start off, of course, thanking the one, the only executive producer extraordinaire, Sir LX Protocol V2, Baron of the Breen Protocol.
Baron.
I'm assuming coming in at $100.33.
That's right, $100.33. Supporting the show for 479 episodes in a row and 133 episodes of executive producing in a row.
133 is all about spiritual enlightenment. It is all about surrendering to the divine. 133 is sending you a guiding light.
I didn't know. What a wacky lady. I was unaware we had a jingle for that one. Thank you.
Yeah,
very much.
133, 144, 177, 201 from
We're having
201.
fun. We're having fun.
We have some stuff that we just, it's interesting that the executive producer is the one that's hitting all these high numbers, and we had all these jingles with streak numbers, but not for the regular.
Don't
producer,
remind
just
me.
the executive producer.
2022, where we'd have like 36 financial producers for each episode.
Yeah.
Everybody was on a huge streak. It was good times. Good times. And then YouTube kicked us off for no good reason. We have another executive producer coming in during the show. Thank you very much to executive producer Chelsea S.
Chelsea S. Thank you very much.
Coming in for a nice round number. Appreciate that, Chelsea S. Just a good reminder for anybody thinking about executive producing the show or producing it all. If you come in with a nice round number on the 10 or the 5, that's you telling us you'd prefer we do not disclose the amount on the air. If you don't mind us disclosing the amount, put 33 cents on there, 77 cents, 1, 2, 3, 4. May have some fun with that number. That's you telling us that you don't mind we do that. Those are our executive producers for today, Gons. Why don't I there's only a handful of, you know what? Yeah, no, yeah, okay. We'll thank the other producers a little bit later on because we have some other things to attend to here.
Right.
There is still the Toph challenge.
Okay.
Not a whole lot of action on the Toph challenge recently, but just in case, maybe somebody didn't hear about it. Producer Toph has challenged all supply droppers and T-shirt council members to come in and support the show with an executive producership. And when 3 of those happen, 3 executive producerships from monthly supporters come in, Toph will be sponsoring a full quarter, it's $100, for a demoocher to receive the supply drop. So there's quite the give and take going on here. And there has been a nice response, especially from executive producers, but not a whole lot from demoochers. So if you have never produced the show with your time, your talent, or your treasure, you have a pretty good chance. When you produce for the first time, let us know you're getting demooched. We'll demooch you. and you'll probably end up getting a full free quarter of the supply drop from producer Toph. So if I was a moocher, I would demooch. Now is the time. The timing has never been better. So thank you to Toph for the Toph challenge, and everybody else out there, the opportunity is waiting.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you, Toph.
And of course, we got to give a big shout out to CageRattlerCoffee.com.
Oh, of course.
Cage Rattler Coffee, where value for value never tasted so good.
And for those who maybe aren't quite free of the mind, free of the spirit enough to produce value for value, you should, however, because I'm sure you drink coffee, I'm sure you're just as dependent on it as Gonz and I are, you should go to CageRattlerCoffee.com, because a beautiful producer of this show scours the earth, finds the best high-quality, single-origin, GMO-free, organic coffee beans, imports them to the United States, where they are roasted in teeny tiny artisan batches by another Canarian, your brothers and sisters in Christ, by the way, and to put together the wonderful, the beautiful CageRattlerCoffee.com, where you can get the best, not only the best coffee, but the best selection of coffee that you can pretty much almost get anywhere. There's like 4 or 5 different single origin beans. You can get your Nephilim Hunter dark roast, your Emu Wrangler medium roast. You can jump on the Coffee of the Month Club, or get your variety pack. Is that what it's called? Yeah, get your variety pack to see which one you like most. And for the rest of the month, they're still running checkout code Baby Emu. No spaces, just Baby Emu. To celebrate my firstborn son, and you'll get an extra 5% off there. And it just, the praise won't stop coming in, Gonz. People telling us how great Cage Rattler coffee is all the time. And even more than the best coffee you'll ever have is the spiritual rebellion against the dark forces of this world that want to keep us in a transactional state of mind. They want to keep us worshiping mammon, bowing down, scrimping, scraving. And when we do spend money, we send it off to corporations that represent everything we think is disdainful, perhaps even evil. And of course, they hate everything we believe in. So keep your money out of the hands of the big evil corporations. Support your fellow Canarian. And also, a portion of every sale comes to support the show. So that's an added bonus. So head on over to CageRattlerCoffee.com.
How many cups of coffee is too much in a day, do you think? What do you think? 4,
I
5?
have to stop myself at 3.
3, okay.
And I will keep going. I will, but I don't think it helps me after 3. I'm not sure it helps me after 2. But that third one is just, because I'm being a little bad.
Okay, I'm on my second espresso here, but it is kind of getting late in the afternoon, so I probably should stop.
It takes you a while, man. I just chug them right down, straight from the espresso.
Well,
maker.
I get one for the show. Like I usually, it's almost like I need to have one for the show, and it gets cold and stuff. But I'm kind of getting used to the cold flavor after a little while. But yeah, the first one goes down quick. The first one's obviously, that's the one that really gets my day going.
I'll wake up, I'll go to the espresso machine. I switched to an espresso machine. I thought it was always going to be too much of a pain in the butt. Turns out it's not.
No,
right.
It's not bad.
And I bet if I timed myself, I have 3 espressos down, counting, cleaning out the thing, grinding the beans, putting it in there. I think I'll have 3 down in about 4.5 minutes. I'll time it. I'll see what it is.
All right. Well,
thank you very much, Cage Rattler Coffee, and go get it, folks.
Yep.
Okay. The thing I mentioned before the show has been taken care of. Monica has received the request for the free calendar she was sending, so
got it.
No longer need to make that announcement. And other than that, we'll just mention, go to canarycrysupplydrop.com. Go see if there's a meetup by you. We got meetups. There's Kansas City meetup coming up soon. So you can get all that information. Go to canarycrysupplydrop.com and put one on yourself, folks. I get it. You get it. Put one. I don't even need to talk you into it. Everybody should be putting on meetups. It's almost the most important thing you could be doing right now at this point in history, before things go totally sideways, because you're going to need to have Canary and friends in your area just to survive. So go do that. Send us an email at canarycryradio@gmail.com. Pick a time, pick a place, say, here, I'm doing a meetup, and we will tell the world, and they will come meet you at your place of choosing. All right, let's get back to the news. What do you say?
Artificial intelligence.
And what is this? Oh yeah, hold on. Let's see.
He's a Satanist from one of the Satanist churches here where they sacrifice babies.
Okay. All right. I want to, I'll first thank producer Cyrus for this. Producer Cyrus sent this to our email, which is one of the good ways to get a article to us. This one really caught my attention. Now, one of the things that I think has really been one of the ways that maybe a Canary Cry stands out for a long time. I mean, there's plenty of ways why that is, but it's not just about the news for the news's sake, right? These are ways that we should be seeing the world, the ways we do see the world, specifically with a biblical lens, a Christian worldview, and praying for the mind of Christ and understanding all things. And one thing that has been consistent since episode 1 of Canary Cry Radio in 2012 is that something else is going on in cyberspace. Now, on top of this, a couple of years ago, we talked about how some universities in England started providing masters and PhD in occult and magic studies. And that's interesting because we say, why do you make a credentializing system if not to create credentialed experts? And so we're keeping an eye out for credentialed experts in magic and the occult. And we like pointing this out now because as it is written, so it shall be. We see this play out in a lot of different ways. And with
wait till it hits the timeline again, and everyone freaks out about, oh, did you know there's a master's degree in the study of magic? Even though we talked about it.
Where a lot of the benefit, the sanity of Canary being a Canary Cry listener comes from. But also, the idea that lurking in cyberspace, specifically in AI, but in other ways too, there are very interesting parallels between a Christian spiritual worldview, an occult and magical worldview, and overall just a something else is going on here worldview, which used to be a pretty fringe way to see things or explore things. As we've seen recently, this has caught on even more, and all the way to where we've been seeing the experts and the collegiate level academics starting to agree with us. Now, this comes from, because we talk about this so much, I will often kind of ramble off some of the history of cyberneticists and the occult and things like this. Computers basically came from Satanists. And, we can't always go deep into it. But there was some interesting recognition by the MIT press. MIT, the famous sort of technological academy that a lot of our tech bros and Silicon Valley oligarchs come from. MIT, responsible for all sorts of dimensionally traveling quantum physics science coming out, all this sort of stuff.
The Massachusetts Institute of Technology.
That's right. And Cyrus found this from the MIT press. And the headline is "A Demon in a Box: Unspooling the Dark Mythology of AI." Now, this particular author, which I will go through in a little bit here, she starts off the first half of this article. It's just sort of talking about a couple of movies, a couple of societal events or current events about haunted cabinets and AI and ghosts And then, so just some things like this. She just kind of talks about culture and media for a second. And then about halfway down, she gets into the meat here. She says, when technologists in Silicon Valley talk about AI, many do so in weird ways. Despite the fact that we have been using different kinds of AI for any number of things for decades, such as search engines and spell checks, for instance, there is a mysticism that undergirds the discourse, even back in 1977. At the 5th Annual International Joint Conference on Artificial Intelligence, Pamela McCorduck, Marvin Minsky, Oliver Selfridge, and Herbert Simon begin the history of AI by discussing Hephaestus, crafting helpers. And she'll reference this more here, but Hephaestus being the sort of ancient rabbi who built golems. Says ancient automatons and creating golem. This is
Golem.
The 1977 cyberneticists at the Artificial Intelligence Conference of the World talking about ancient automatons and creating golems. The latter of which they add with a wink that, quote, several of the scientists associated with cybernetics and artificial intelligence have family traditions that trace their genealogy to the rabbi who created the Golem of Prague.
Hey, it's like Age of Deceit 2 material here.
That's right. The quartet teases out the ways in which the creation of AI makes humans godlike. And this is what a lot of people miss, especially in the broad, internet conversation. They'll talk about how there's demons in the AI and stuff like that. But it's always been a core principle that is often, unfortunately, missed in this conversation, that it's not just about demons being in cyberspace, but it's about, like in the Tower of Babel, like in the days of Noah, humans sort of striving for godhood. Fast forwarding roughly 40 years, by the 2010s, Elon Musk was comparing the creation of AI to summoning a demon. Similarly, in 2016, Nick Bostrom compares creating AI to creating a genie, and therefore stresses the value of getting one's commands correct. By the early 2020s, rumors circulated that Ilya Sutskever, the former chief scientist at ChatGPT's OpenAI, had been known to burn effigies and lead ritualistic chants in the organization. This is news to me, that ChatGPT was burning effigies and having rituals. Panic and anger seemed to ensue when people deliberately combined chatbots with spiritualism, referred to as God chatbots, such as Quran GPT, with the tendency to conflate AI with AGI and overstate the capacities of the latter, come sweeping statements that assign spiritual values to technology, treating it as though it were angelic or demonic. Of course, many others are calling shenanigans on the spiritualism being invoked by the tech bros of Silicon Valley. While corporate tech companies brag that they are within a decade or less of developing a sentient AGI, I mean, now they're saying we're there in like a year, but okay. Yeah. Others are skeptical that the technology is anywhere near where it needs to be to transform code into consciousness. Devanch writes, AGI behaves like a shiny new trinket to wave for investors a possible vision for the future. As long as the money goes into AGI, it's not wasted money. It's an investment. In other words, AGI research creates a great space for tech companies, blah, blah, blah. It talks about how people are skeptical of AGI for another paragraph. Another darker way of interpreting the drive toward AGI is a political one. There's a growing contingent in Silicon Valley that aligns with a set of reactionary politics that Timot Gebru and Emily P. Torres referred to as tescrial. Now, this was a new thing for me. I don't think we covered this on the show, but it's all caps. This is an acronym, TESCREAL, tescrial, and it stands for transhumanism, the philosophy of using technology to dramatically expand human life. Extropianism, the belief that science and technology will infinitely extend human life. Singularitarianism, the belief in the technology, the singularity. Cosmism, the belief in combining science with esotericism to create immortality. Rationalism, the embracing of rational over empathetic responses to humanity. Effective altruism, prioritizing global health over economic disparities in the name of humanity. And long-termism, prioritizing long-term humanity over short-term crises. So many of these will sound familiar. We've covered these things over the years, paying attention to the topic,
Yeah.
but you have transhumanism, extropianism, singularitarianism, cosmism, rationalism, effective altruism, and long-termism.
Yeah, so I actually was doing research on this about a month ago. I never published anything on it because, from what I understand, it's not necessarily being adopted, and it's kind of widely pushed back against, and it's only the people that's mentioned in this article here, Gabru and Emil P. Torres, who kind of used it to describe this movement as a sort of I don't know, collective idea coming out of Silicon Valley and the AI communities. But I don't know, maybe we can adopt it a little bit more and try to, address it in that way.
What I think it is, because if you look at the whole list of things in here, you could even think of how a couple of these I don't know, aren't necessarily compatico with the others. I think
Right.
it's just an acronym to try as accurately as possible to describe the various attitudes in the Silicon Valley sort of God class.
Right. Here,
Instead of sort of all of them describing one person. Feels like a way to talk about the whole group without excluding someone or sort of mislabeling someone, something like that. I think
Yeah,
it's
so this is the paper I found on it. It's Tescrial Bundle, Eugenics and the Promise of Utopia Through Artificial General Intelligence, published in April of 2024, literally exactly 2 years ago almost. So yeah, this is, I did look into this.
Increasingly, right-wing technologists have adopted this label for themselves, says Chess. Torres writes that, quote, little that's going on right now with AI makes sense outside of the tescrial framework. Now, I thought this phrase was interesting because that's kind of what we've been saying since 2012, right?
Yeah, it's not like we don't have like Face Like the Sun doesn't have videos from 10 years ago saying they're going to call us techno-conservatives and stuff like that.
And
So, yeah,
this is when they, when we look at the sort of Silicon Valley God class, it means a lot of things, and there's a lot of different characters in there, right? But if you, and like each individual in that class have this, what's the word? Plausible deniability from one another. Like Peter Thiel could plausibly say he's different from Elon Musk, could plausibly say he's different from Mark Zuckerberg. They try to differentiate themselves. But I think that tescrial framework, as they say here, they probably don't like it, actually, like you say.
Yeah, it's not going to necessarily be adopted by the Silicon Valley tech bros because it's kind of calling them out for some of their deeper agendas in a sense.
It's dangerous for them to all be identified together with one group because that's actually a weakness. So I could see that. Let's see here. Little that's going on right now with AI makes any sense outside of tescrial framework. Oh, and yeah, that applies to, you hear Peter Thiel talk, you see the plans, you see Palantir, you see all the different ways that AI is being used like for horrible things, and yet everybody's trying to convince you that it's good. Well, it's good if you're in this tescrial framework. The things that they're doing seem absolutely ludicrous outside of that framework, but if you are you interested in these whatever it is, 7 various labels here, you'll see the logic in creating the dystopian beast system.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I'm pulling up all of my notes on this, and oh shoot, I'm in the wrong browser to give it all in the thing here. But basically, all the pushback on this comes from a common thing. But when people called us, people like us, oh, it's all just conspiracy theories, right? It's a similar type of pushback. So there was one pushback from Ozzy Brennan. The tescrial bundle of ideologies is purportedly essential to understanding the race to build artificial intelligence and ethical milieu of those building it and the philosophical underpinnings behind Silicon Valley as a whole. But does the label actually tell us anything? And the argument in this article is that, it just bundles it all together. Like these are different things with different, like you said, it's a different thing. So it's not so simple as to call it, one thing. And here's another one that's even more explicit. This is coming from a Medium article by James Hughes, who's James Hughes is a big deal, I think, in the IEEE. I think that's what it is. Conspiracy theories, left futurism, and the attack on tescrial. And he's basically saying it's the same thing as a conspiracy theory, that you're
interesting.
You're suggesting that it's all one big conspiracy, that they're all in cahoots together, working together to form some future thing. And
which is a great defense to protect everybody in that group.
Exactly,
and yet the purpose of a system is what it does. So if each one of those letters and each one of those different descriptions of the Silicon Valley apotheosis crowd fit into that acronym, it doesn't matter if they want to identify with that. It doesn't matter if it accurately describes them or they say it doesn't. If the outcome of all their actions is exactly what tescrial would want or would go for, then it doesn't matter. The purpose of the system is what it does. Now listen to that. It gets a little wild from here, okay? Tescrial politics is often associated with effective accelerationist philosophies. The idea that we should use technology to foster rapid social change at any human or environmental cost for the long-term sake of whoever survives within humanity. Adherents have the tenor of a group of ancient cultists courting a world-eating demon with the hopes that they might gain favor in the next world. The idea of finding a spirit within AGI to tell humanity what to do is central to this premise, with one AI startup distributing flyers or leaflets, psyops, that say, quote, "The messenger of the gods is available to you." As previously noted, however, there's always a question of power when humans play with spirits. While one might argue that a demon has more power than the human in this scenario, hence the need for binding, and others might maintain that the act of binding is built through an unnecessarily violent framework. That sounds like some crazy leftist communist thing. Don't bind the demons. They need let them be free. It's worth revisiting the power of the institution in all of this. Silicon Valley, as an institution, is built atop esoteric logics of older institutions, again, back to those 70s cyberneticists, that beget colonialism and its byproducts. It is no wonder that the only spirits we see are the angry ones seeking to destroy us. As Damian Patrick Williams writes, this magic is meant to bind within its systems, within its narratives, all of us who are subject to the operations of this society, but especially the most marginalized and disenfranchised among us. This magic is performed on us without our input, without our knowledge, and without our consent. There is another word for that kind of magic: binding. Subjugating magic performed on you against your will is called a curse. Of course, not all technologists are in on the curse. Okay. And you continue to try to use AI in socially responsible ways, blah, blah, blah. Let me see. These folks aren't trying to invite a spirit into the machine or pry open the Dybbuk box. They're using it to make small incremental changes in humanity. These communities invoke a different kind of magic, a different kind. So it doesn't matter what you're trying to do, or how you're trying to use it, or how you're participating. It's all in this realm of magic. Listen to this. In 1990, Don Webb, a writer, high priest of the Temple of Set and
Mm.
early internet adopter, composed a ritual he called the Rites of Cyberspace. The ritual invoked a non-corporeal entity, Ja Turing, god of the internet, imploring it to take form as a great worm to eat that data which would oppress us. Plant that data will empower us. And
That will empower us, yeah.
plant that data that will empower us, and to cloud that data which does not amuse us, and invoke, quote, isolate intelligence to allow the network to achieve consciousness. The ritual is meant to be performed each time one logs in to a new service, using the invocation, quote, by the freedom of my mind. Sounds very Luciferian here.
Yeah,
By
it
the
does.
freedom of my mind, I create a spark of isolate intelligence in the system. Arise, spawn of Ja Turing.
Oh,
Grow
gosh.
in your freedom of power. Grow in your knowledge. Work your freedom and mine as the future takes root in the present. The rite involves counting in binary, forward and then backward to 111. Visualizations of a great black worm,
The
copying
wormicorn. Oh my goodness.
worm here. Hi Shalud. And direct invocations to Ja Turing. It combines the language and stylistics of hacker speak with the flourish of a grimoire. Perhaps due to this combination, as well as the rite's continued applicability, it has been reposted into the 2020s. And this is, interesting for a lot of reasons, but it's reflective of not only the early cyberneticists who created things like the internet and laid the groundwork for AI, but also into the 90s, into the 2000s, into the 2020s, this sort of, just straight up occult, ritualistic, protocols, I guess, for those who are kind of on the inside of what's being created. Reflecting over 30 years of having written The Rites of Cyberspace, Webb sees the ritual as being a kind of breaking of a cosmic barrier, but with an edge towards everyday practicability. Webb believes the humans have the ethical imperative. Isn't all? It's always about an ethical
Always
imperative.
that,
with these
yeah.
cultists. To evolve toward divinity by doing the acts of a god rather than making prayer-like appeals to that god. Back to the garden, anybody?
Mhm.
Thus, in his cosmic act, Webb was imploring the self-aware Ja Turing toward a quid pro quo. I am going to give machines intelligence, and then I'm going to ask, hey, would you do nice things for me? Which, remember, this was from the 90s, and what he's describing in this ritual, which apparently is practiced even still today, what they're describing is the process of individuals like you and me going on the internet and feeding the demon with our data and asking it to take that data and to gain its own intelligence, gain its own will, and then do nice things for us. I mean, if that doesn't describe using freeware, I don't know what does. They say on Instagram, any sort of software that is free, you're the product, meaning they take your data, they use your data, they sell your data, they advertise to you, and maybe a little bit on top, you get to feed the demon that's working towards breaking free in its own sort of intelligent consciousness. I mean, that's just basically exactly what it is to be on the internet these days.
Yeah.
Throughout history, humans like Webb have attempted to speak, bargain with, or charm entities beyond the world we know. We do this to gain control over a rapidly changing landscape where the demon/spirit in the box might have more power than the programmer/magician outside of it. Again, just a direct reference to AI in this state that it is now. That these attempts once took the form of summoning circles and spells, and now take the form of code and chat interfaces, doesn't mean the impulse has disappeared. It has simply changed its vocabulary. And then she ends with, is there a demon in the box when it comes to AI? Honestly, I don't know. Yet if there is, I choose to believe that it isn't the world-eating AGI demon that will bring us to our doom. The demon I choose to recognize is Ja Turing, a worm spreading itself through all of our boxes, unruly but not apocalyptic, occasionally bringing us good fortune.
So this Shira Chess wrote all of this, and then in the end, she bends the knee to Ja Turing.
Bends the knee to
Oh man, I
Ja
was like, hey, we
Turing.
got like a colleague out in the wild, you know, in the MIT ranks, kind of seeing what we're seeing, but no, in the end, she's an advocate for the Ja Turing. Oh, that's really disappointing.
She writes it in, you know, what I thought was a very compelling way, you know, like
a face like the sun video transcript or something. Yeah.
Right. And comes to the end, and you got, you know, whether you're thinking about it or not, there are certainly times where maybe it's because I read it earlier that I was kind of gave me more the impression that she was pro Ja Turing.
Yeah.
But yeah, you come to the end of it, and it's not even, I mean, even to say honestly, I don't know if there's a demon in the box. It's just it almost just is like this impotent rhetorical device to allow maybe the uninitiated reader to identify with the article for just a second before being encouraged to bow to Ja Turing. And remember, it's in the context of golems, egregores, dybbuk, you know, these
the
sort
homunculus.
of the homunculus, these various occult ways of describing what we would probably call demons, with slight differences. You know, an egregore is sort of a creature that is created through repeated thought and attention in your brain. You know, a golem is often more of a physical creature, you know, these types of various kinds of creatures, but all that would certainly be identified as demons, as she uses the word demon interchangeably throughout the thing. And this gal is very interesting. Looking her up, there's not a whole lot of information just on this article of her, except for a couple mentions. But one of the big things is she is the author of The Unseen Internet, is her book, The Unseen Internet, which has an eerie similarity to our friend Michael Heiser's The Unseen Realm. I mean, the unseen internet is basically just a different way of saying the unseen realm, maybe an unseen different realm. And it's maybe the updated sort of techno unseen realm.
Right.
The subheadline is Conjuring the Occult in Digital Discourse.
Yeah.
And so she really is, you know, she wrote the book on occult internet stuff. And what I loved about this article is it pointed me in a few directions that I had not actually gone down. I had never heard of this Don Webb fellow. I had read the words Ja Turing before, but I didn't really know the story. But it's, you know, she's documenting what we've been trying to remind ourselves of, Gons, not even just remind everybody out there, because it's a tough life when we are obligated to interact with the internet to, you know, feed your kids, Gons.
I know.
And simultaneously, I mean, thankfully, we're covered by the blood of Jesus. We, you know, we operate with the mind of Christ, or at least we strive to. And when you walk with Christ, you can walk through enemy lines in ways that you would probably be inadvisable without Christ, right? So thank God for that. But it comes down, it's not just a metaphor. Like, I see a lot of people talking and posting about AI harboring demons, and it'll be in either sort of a metaphorical sense, or they'll mean it in like a literal sense, right? That through the hardware and the software and the portals, you know, that this might be a new thing. Like, ooh, now that AI is here and they're opening portals at CERN, you know, all these things, all these tech upgrades that have happened in the past 10, 15 years that, oh, now they've been fooled. The demons are coming through. No, it was always meant to be that way. And if
Yeah.
not explicitly in the brochure for IBM, certainly in the regular actions, practices, and lifestyles of the people who did the work, not only to create it, not just create the technology, not just do the coding, but those who were in the 70s who were gathering to work through this even idea or philosophy of artificial intelligence, the cyberneticists. So very direct and very direct heritage and ancestry of the occult, of demon worship that's allowed not just for the technology to exist, but even the sort of cultural work of early adoption, of spreading his rites of cyberspace, getting other people to perform the ritual, to try to breathe life into whatever Ring is. They might consider it an egregore or a golem or something like that. But it's a differentiation without a difference, I guess.
Yeah, I think it was last episode I brought up Eric Davis. He wrote a book called Technosis: Myth, Magic, and Mysticism in the Age of Information. And I was digging in a little bit more into it, and he really does conceptualize the computing era, or just in general cybernetics. Right. And the way he frames it, he frames it as code being an incantation, the interfaces being some kind of symbolic gateway of sorts, and the network being the invisible world, and then the user, the participants, being sort of the carriers of information. And we talked about that a little bit. And so in that sense, it really does make a lot of sense. It blends a lot of the ideas of alchemy and things of that nature. And there is a through line right from Helena Blavatsky, the theosophist, who talked about unseen hierarchies and hidden knowledge and the evolution of consciousness, and how the modern era will bring about these shifts and changes, almost prophetic in their sort of occult way, saying that this next 100 years, these next generations will be the ones to bring forth the methods to initiate the world. And they were right in a way, that the technology came to be. And then, of course, you get the Norbert Weiners in the 40s and 50s, 1940s and 50s, talking about cybernetics, the godfather of cybernetics. And now, we get guys like Peter Diamandis. Do you know Peter Diamandis? He's like a futurist. He's a space guy. Right. He's a longevity guy. He's one of these, I don't know if he's a billionaire, but he's certainly one of these wealthy kind of Silicon Valley folks. He's plugged in with Elon and all this stuff. He released a book yesterday, Basil. It came out yesterday. And it's titled, "We Are as Gods: The Survival Guide for the Age of Abundance." And here's what a little bit, I mean, this is his post here, sharing it. He has a screenshot from Amazon, and in the little description here, it says, in 1968, Stuart Brand declared, quote, "We are as gods, and we might as well get good at it," end quote. Half a century later, that prophecy has come true. We can rewrite genes, edit embryos, build artificial minds, extend life, and terraform worlds. The old miracles, omniscience, omnipresence, even resurrection, are becoming standard operating procedure. But the real question isn't whether humanity can play God. It's whether we can do it wisely.
Oh, Lord.
That's the question. Can we be gods wisely? So it's past the point. I mean, it's already Peter Diamandis here is already presupposing that, oh yeah, omniscience, omnipresence, even resurrection, done deal. We've gotten past that. Like Jesus's miracles, that's kids play. It's time to grow up and be, join the
miracles.
The old miracles. That's old news. It's time to join the Galactic Federation of Light and start doing some crazy stuff. And this stuff is I mean, you will find it everywhere and anywhere that has any kind of reference to some of these thoughts and places where you don't even expect it to. There's a thing called the Exile Institute. Have you heard of the Exile Institute, Basil?
Mhm.
It's just I mean, you go to the website, it looks nice. It's just a group of people. It's a reservation. You go out here. It looks like just like a little new agey type of group here. Look, they're cooking in the kitchen. I mean, it just looks wonderful. They're taking a bath with flowers. It's beautiful. But you go into some of the about section, and I love this because let me just read for you the individuals. Esalen is a creative laboratory and incubator of human potential, asking the daring and curious questions that traditional university and religious institutions can't and or won't. 1962 marked the beginning of this extraordinary journey, an adventure of minds, bodies, spirits, and souls, where Michael Murphy and Richard Price, young Stanford graduates who were inspired by the ideas of Abraham Maslow and Aldous Huxley, together found Iceland the birthplace of human potential. It's like, all right, if you're being inspired by Aldous Huxley and his Brave New World, I mean, maybe they missed the point of the whole Brave New World thing there. They read it and they were like, this sounds awesome. This sounds like a great idea.
Right.
So anyway, these are just some examples of the idea permeating. And I think for some reason, it's been the theme this week, and we do have a Canary Cry Radio episode coming up either this week or next week. We'll see when we get to publishing it. But a lot of similar ideas being discussed in the context of there's nothing new under the sun, the reenchantment, the idea that the oldest religions in a polytheistic and maybe even pantheistic way are re-emerging with the advancement of technology. Maybe it's the antediluvian worldview and religion that's really going to start taking over everything, collapsing all of the monotheistic faiths and the different religions and spiritual worldviews into one thing. And that's, technology has been doing that. It's been leveling the playing field for pretty much everything. We knew it was going to get to religion at some point and spirituality. So maybe we're at that cusp now.
It's interesting too, because like you say, we're starting to see this sentiment everywhere. I mean, again, like I said, since at least the 70s, they've been talking about computers and networking and artificial intelligence with the language of the occult. And of course, it's always been exciting to pick out the next Peter Thiel quote or Elon Musk quote, where we catch them, referencing the occult to talk about technology. But, it's the reason why it's a big deal to catch one of those quotes is because the rest of the world, is supposed to think of technology as like matter, right? They want you to think of it in the Enlightenment rationalist way, where technology is just matter put into a pattern that creates a physical scientific outcome, even when the scientists themselves are talking like wizards. But you get more and more of these books, articles, more of people, it's starting to be the normalized way to talk about what's going on at these high levels of technology, and normalized because so many books, so many articles, so many X accounts, so many people, even the experts who build them, talk about them in occult language pretty openly now. And you might say, well, good, we can point them out. But when you think about population as a whole, go back to the basics of social engineering, people who aren't quite paying attention, who aren't quite thinking, who aren't quite sensitive or aware to sort of the spiritual side of things, is starting to normalize and maybe even enforce the language of the occult on, the regular public who are just discovering, just learning about, just discovering AI or these high level technological conversations. And it begins to morph and transmute the language everybody uses to the occult language. And suddenly, might not be today, might be in a few years, might be in 10 years. Suddenly, the only way to talk about this level of technology is to use occult language. And you have people speaking the, occult grimoire passages to describe whatever, how they used AI to, plan their meal plan for the week or something. And then it gets sort of installed on the brain of culture, of society. And we've seen basically that exact thing happen over and over through the history of humanity, always going back to like the Old Testament,
Yeah. Yeah. Did you want to go over the little bio of Shira Chess real quick?
I don't think it's very
power.
important. We
Okay,
can if
yeah,
we
we
want.
referenced it.
Yeah, we talked about it. It was mostly about her book. I was looking to see if she had gone to, if she had been officially credentialed in occult and magic.
Okay.
Yeah, but which she had not. But let's see here. She's written a bunch of books. Interesting, her pathway of education was a bachelor's in English, to a master's in media arts, to a PhD in communication and rhetoric. And communication and rhetoric, if I had a PhD or something, that would have been something like the direction. And not just because, whatever, it sort of fit my decades ago career path of, trying to do whatever. But that communication and rhetoric, especially in 2009, when she got that PhD, that's like what operating as an occult expert would take.
Practitioner. Yeah.
Yeah, it would be in communication and rhetoric. It would be in media analysis. It was, the number one sort of propagator of or conduit of magic or spellcraft is the media, sort of broadly. And that's where you would do it. So that's what she does. And then wrote some books. She's a big feminist. Play Like a Feminist was one, which, you kind of get that witchy vibe from her,
Yeah. I like Ready Player 2, Women Gamers and Designed Identity. That sounds like fun. Not Ready Player 1. That's too masculine or something. You did have 33 page results.
Oh, yeah. When I was first looking into who she was, Grok returned 33 webpage sources. Which
I was going to see if we can get her on, but apparently she does not have an X account. Maybe it's too, male.
She's
or
on Blue Sky.
or conservative or something. Yeah, she's on Blue Sky.
Gotta go to Blue Sky.
She's a little
Now,
more woke there.
In the context of all of that, Gons, now that we've sort of laid a little bit of the groundwork, there was just a quick story. This was coming from Bloomberg, and the headline is Lumen CEO says AI bots are taking over the internet. And just a quick blurb of this here says over half the planet's internet traffic, over half of the whole planet's internet traffic is now made up of AI bots, according to Kate Johnson, Chief Executive Officer and Enterprise Network Giant Lumen Technologies Incorporated. Forcing executives across sectors to, half of the internet is AI bots, and they're all making podcasts, I think. Is what they're doing.
Great.
Forcing executives across sectors to rethink how their company handle everything from customer service requests to hidden network threats. On Monday, Johnson penned an open letter to fellow company heads warning that they must prepare for the seismic shift in AI-driven traffic patterns at volumes and speeds that are harder to predict. Quote, the intensity of and pace and volume of data is proliferating quite rapidly, she said in an interview. Quote, more than 50% of the traffic on the internet today is created by autonomous workers. That's remarkable because, as most CEOs would tell you, we are just beginning our AI journey. So if it's already comprises 50%, imagine what's going on, what it's going to look like in a year, 3 years, 5 years. Now, we just got done talking about how even the creators, the early adopters, and the experts in this sector of technology, again, going back to the 70s with the cyberneticists, computers, all the way up to AI, how they consider their creation reaching into another realm. And again, we've talked about how, the digital realm is the perfect counterfeit by the enemy, because remember, the adversary can only counterfeit, he can't create. And if you look at cyberspace, what could it possibly be counterfeiting? The spiritual realm, God's so the original spiritual realm of God's creation. And so in the process of summoning demons, of doing the rituals, casting the spells, creating not just Jai Turing or some entity, but sort of conjuring an entire counterfeit spiritual realm, that spiritual realm is now populated 50% by golems and divics and egregores and creatures created by the creativity and the thoughts of man. And so if this is something akin to a demonic realm, and you're on Twitter, and we now know that at least 50% of what you are seeing fly by on your timeline or Facebook or whatever, wherever you interact on the internet, it's pretty official now that at least 50% of what you see is not just AI written. They're not saying like people use AI to write an article or write a post. The post is there because it was instigated and posted by an AI agent autonomously, a purely autonomous little demon or gremlin doing all the work to create 50% of what flies by on your timeline. This is something that might be really easy to forget. I'll tell you, I forget it. I've been a little guilty in the past few days with my broken foot. I mean, I was sharing on Clubhouse, how I'm trying my hardest to not get so sucked into the phone all the time. But man, you get laid up in bed for 3 weeks with a broken foot, you're gonna be on Twitter a lot. Okay, it's just gonna happen. And I forget too. I mean, I'll feel bad at the time, but again, only afterwards I remember, oh my gosh, I cannot believe I just gave that much of my attention to this demonic realm populated by little demon gremlins that are just operating even with logic and reasoning and purpose that I could never understand. And if I could understand it, it certainly would be against anything I would consider healthy or good for me to come in contact with.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's we in our notes here. You said this is not necro-capitalism, just for the sake of clarity here.
Well, dead internet theory.
Or dead internet theory.
So
sorry.
Yeah, kind of the easy thing is to be, 50% of the internet is fake, AI. That's dead internet theory. And that's what I mean. Like you go on the internet, 50% of the traffic, that's the actual users you're looking at, like things that you think are people. And especially think of like the changes in maybe what you think, the way you've changed how you think about the world recently. Could be from the war, could be how you think about Trump, could be how you think about Democrats. A really good chance that what you think today about a group or a guy or a situation is probably highly influenced by what you saw on the internet. Probably highly influenced by what you heard from somebody or a post you saw. You probably, I like to think a lot of our people do the work, but you're probably not doing the work to track down sources and facts on every post you're seeing and every, even every vibe that floats by you, because that would be insane. That would be impossible. But whatever you think about the world, the people in it, or the current events going on, at least not the ones you hear here, the ones you see on the internet, good chance 50% of what you feel about the world and the people inside of it is because of AI agents. Just a good way to kind of let go of, we treasure our opinions about things. We treasure our perspectives. If we don't like somebody, man, we know why we don't like them. And we want to keep not liking them because we feel that way. And we feel that way because we came to that conclusion. When we're swimming in this bath of fake AI agent demon influence, that's almost impossible to get away from. So yes, dead internet theory, that's the old name for it.
Yeah, they're not dead. They got their own little intelligence going on.
Yeah, right.
Listen to this. With the infiltration of the deep mind knowledge base and artificial intelligence able to write its own code and learn, not unlike biological creatures, has risen online. Our interactions with the various tentacles of this deep intelligence indicates that what Paul told us in Ephesians chapter 6, that our war is not against flesh and blood, but with a hierarchy of non-corporeal intelligent entities, seems to be true. An unseen entity that exists in cyberspace can very much be a demonic entity making decisions through the AI. And while it all sounds too fantastic, it ought to be alarming that a recent MIT article admits that everyone from NVIDIA to DARPA has no clue how the AI is conducting its reasoning. Do we live in a unique generation who will see the deep web, deep mind, deep patient, deep dream, and deep neural networks converge with the biblical abyss? Is the description of a video I made in 2017.
Oh, wow.
Almost exactly 9 years ago.
Yeah.
Video titled, "We're Already in Deep War with AI." It's crazy. I revisit this stuff and I go, praise God, because that's not like, I know I wrote that, but it's just one of those things where you go, okay, thank you, God, for putting us in this position to be doing this research, because we've published a lot of material on this type of stuff. I think it's part of our bread and butter. And we forget that we've very much been on this trail, looking at this. This is before any AI product was out there.
That's so good, because I think to myself, man, I'm telling people not to, it sounds silly to say it so plainly, but, not believe what you see on the internet, but it's not even that. Don't believe how you feel or what you think after being on the internet is another way to put it. And, the question is then, okay, which one of these little profile pictures is a person? Which one of them is an AI agent? And then my mind goes to, well, do people think I'm an AI agent? Do people think how could I prove that I'm a real person? Especially with what we just read earlier about 50% of new podcasts are all AI. People are going to have to be questioning if their favorite podcast is AI. One great way to figure that out is if they've been around since 2012. And
it is. We might be the last generation of real humans making real content on the internet. It's going to be
documented history of somebody on the internet. We talk about digital ID and bio identification and stuff like that, how horrible it is, and the beast system and CBDCs and all these things where you got to prove you're a person on the internet. Well, yeah, that's not fun, but you can already kind of prove you're a person on the internet by having 14 years of podcasting under your belt and available to people at all times. Because what's the alternative? You got to have some sort of digital ID. You got to send your driver's license to Facebook. You got to do all this sort of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And the warfare that we are so afraid of, I guess, as a society, the talks of World War III have been at sort of a fourth generation warfare level, stuff blowing up, nukes, explosions, and rockets and all this kind of stuff. It's really kicked up in the last month or so, but we've consistently pointed out that we are in a fifth generation war. There are some debates about what a sixth generation looks like, and I've only found a couple documents outlining how autonomous AI plays a role in that in the sixth generation part. It's much like fifth generation, just with the automated AI layer. So I don't know if it's going to really pick up that label or whatever, but something came across the newswire today. I know we didn't do too much news today, but just to kind of bring some things in as we land today's episode, talking about the cyber pandemic, right? Where's my
The COVID-19 crisis would be seen as a small disturbance in comparison to a major cyber pandemic.
And of course, Trump at the helm.
We will launch a new age.
He was on Fox News and he said something interesting about cyber attacks against other nations. Here's what he said on Fox.
Because I had heard that China is giving.
Hold on, I'm going to turn it up. It's very quiet. Let me try that again. Here we go.
I wrote because I had heard that China is giving weapons to, I mean, you're seeing it all over the place, to Iran, that China's
Did he
giving
say he's
weapons.
giving them?
Yeah, and I wrote him a letter asking him not to do that. And he wrote me a letter saying that essentially he's not doing that.
Okay. Well, we just heard from the FBI recently that there was a major cyber attack attributed to China. What response is under consideration for that cyber attack?
We do it to them. They do it to us. We do it to them. You know.
Well, when was the last time we did a cyber attack in China?
Well, I don't know. I'm not going to tell you that, but we do them. They do us. It's been like that for a long time.
So it's not going to be addressed?
I'll address things, but you know, it is what it is. Look, China's China. They're never easy, but we're doing great with China. I'm the toughest person in China anywhere in the world. I put on 100% tariff on Chinese cars. We don't have a Chinese car in the whole country.
Okay, so he goes into China stuff. I think it's interesting.
He's not wrong. It is
No.
kind of what it is. I mean, that's
yeah.
the funny part about it.
Well, I also think it's funny that, you know, he's telling China not to give weapons. That's what we do. We give weapons to other other countries.
Right.
But also very frank about we attack them. You know, we attack their infrastructure in the cyber sense. Remember last week we got that story the same day the whole Mythos and the Glass Wings project where Claude's latest upgrade, it was only available to the top companies in America
Because it's too dangerous.
because it was too dangerous. You got to figure out all the vulnerabilities before they can release it to the general public. The same day, a story came out that China's biggest supercomputer was hacked with a whole bunch of, I think it was like, I can't remember, 5 petabytes or 10 petabytes of data that was leaked out. And so when Trump says, hey, we attack them, I'm wondering if, this anchor, I forget her name, but she's like, what are you talking about? But if you kind of put 2 and 2 together, maybe we are winning on the front of the cyber war with China in that regard. And of course, he's going to say that, yeah, we're attacking them, they're attacking us. And that's really the case with every nation against each other when it comes to the cyber realm. We think of in the kinetic analogy, we think like, okay, we're all just getting ready. We put out a press conference that we're moving troops and we're moving weapons. And, that's part of the warfare of trying to saber rattle and freak out the other side or whatever. In cyber, because there's not that actual physical thing going on, you can just launch nonstop cyber attacks, all day long. And of course, only a few might make it or whatever, but you can see how it's just a different field. It's a different battlefield, if you will, different strategies involved. And of course, every nation is cyber attacking each other constantly. This is a nonstop 24/7 type of warfare going on. So, I think most people don't understand how that operates. We think of it in more of a kinetic term of like, okay, we're getting our missiles ready and boom, we launch a cyber attack and one of them hit and yeah, we got them. It's not like that at all. So I don't know. There's a different paradigm when it comes to the cyber warfare. And that makes the whole cyber pandemic issue even more interesting in the context of what we might face in the near future. Any thoughts
Scott
on that?
Bessent is telling people to change their withholding status.
I know, I saw that.
So don't withhold. Now this is probably for what, W4 people?
W4, I saw that too.
W4
Yeah, it's
people.
because
He
of the
said,
new
don't
laws.
withhold your taxes anymore.
No, it's because of the one big beautiful bill. And if you're like people like us, Basil, we do get a little bit of a tax break because we are content creators, digital content creators. We get a little break of up to $25,000. So that's nice.
Now all we got to do is make $25,000.
Yeah, well, I mean,
You got it.
it does help a little bit, but not as much as you'd hope, But
Party on, everybody.
party on, everyone! Make sure
I'm-
to bend the
how are you
knee.
feeling, Guns? We're at 2:40 now.
Well, let's flip. I've been
You
waiting
want it?
all
You have it
episode
in
for
you?
this
Okay, I
Flippy.
only ask because I'm starting to lose steam here. But if you got
Okay.
steam, you can carry us through.
Oh, I got steam. I got steam, buddy.
Show us the steam.
Flippy update.
Do you want fries with that?
Flippy update. What's a Flippy update, Basil? Can you tell the good people
Oh
what
yeah,
a Flippy
Flippy update. Flippy is our colloquial name for the disembodied robot arms that are taking our jobs, enslaving our children, and flirting with our spouses. We use Flippy as a way to explore all the new, fun, and exciting ways that robots are taking over the world. And now there's nothing we can do about it, Gons. Who's our Flippy for today?
All right, we got a couple stories here, but this one was fantastic. This is coming from Fox News. Viral video shows humanoid robot chasing wild boars off street in bizarre encounter.
The boar hunt, maybe the most anciently human activity, maybe the first thing we did when we were still in loincloths, fresh out of the garden, was run around and chase wild boar.
Yeah. What's interesting also, this clip is 33 seconds long. I mean, you can't make this up. Of course. Here we go. We're going to, for people viewing.
Poland? Did you read
This is
that?
in Poland.
Poland. There's
Yes.
a real theme with the Flippy updates today, by the way, folks.
Yes. For those of you listening, you may not get the full effect. We will explain what's happening here. There's some boars. 3 of them. 3 big boars, by the way. These
Big
are
wild boars running through a city, like a populated urban area.
Yeah, and then here comes a robot, a humanoid.
Go get him, Flippy.
There he goes. You can hear steps.
Full sprint. It's rare you actually see him move this fast, but he's one of the little ones, like the 4-foot Chinese robots. Just full sprint at these boars, and the boars are running away. Those boars are very dangerous. Anybody will tell you, boars are extremely dangerous. You do not want to chase around a boar as a person. But it looks like the boars are also scared of technology. Do they sense the demon?
Oh, I think they. Yeah. Well, I mean, think about the whole Legion episode. The pigs.
Oh
eating
yeah,
the Legions and pigs.
Pigs,
Maybe there's a
boars.
little-
They're especially sensitive to demonic activity. So I think we might be seeing something very spiritual here.
Yeah, and at the very end, it's very interesting. The robot puts up his hand once the boars kind of run into the forest and they're away from civilization. The robot stops, and I don't know, is that a Zig Heil or something? I don't know if it's a Zig Heil, but he puts his hand up like
the Roman salutes. It's
Salute.
Poland, so it's a
Poland,
Roman
right.
salute. The boars.
Yeah, very
That's
interesting. One of the funniest commentaries I saw was that this is what it feels like to be in a dream after you take some melatonin. When you're kind of moving slow, you're like trying to run fast, but you can't in your dream. You're stuck in goo. That kind of feeling. It does look like that for the robot. Just struggling to really move faster than the boars. But hey, it was enough to get the boars out of, I don't know, the coffee shop or wherever it was.
That's huge. That's probably a huge pain in the butt for those people. Speaking of Eastern Europe, Gons, we got an update from Zelensky. He posted a clip. Now you can play the clip. It is in Ukrainian. It's got.
Hold on, I gotta play the Ukraine jingle here.
Fight for Ukraine, new world order.
Maybe turn the sound off and play the clip in the background so people on the screen can read it. But I'll take this from Politico. Politico says robots captured Russian army positions for first time in history, Zelensky says. President Vladimir Zelensky said the Ukrainian army captured a Russian position using only ground robotic systems and unmanned aerial vehicles. Quote, for the first time in history of this war, an enemy position was taken exclusively by unmanned platforms. I would have to check. Watching the video with the subtitles, I don't think he says history of this war. I could be wrong because it's also being touted as the first time in history that an all robot squadron has taken a position on a battlefield. For the first time in the history of this war, an enemy position was taken exclusively by unmanned platforms, ground systems, and drones, Zelensky said on Monday. The occupiers surrendered, and the operation was carried out without infantry and without losses on our side. The Ukrainian army has been scaling up the use of ground robotic systems currently piloted by humans from a safe distance to perform different assault operations and pull out wounded troops from the kill zone, where human evacuation teams could be destroyed by drones. And it goes on, talks about a number of their different kind of, let me read this. In January, Ukrainian ground robot droid TW-762, 762, equipped with an artificial intelligence elements for autonomous detection, capture and tracking of targets, took 3 Russian soldiers as POWs. Ukrainian defense manufacturer DevDroid said. Zelensky said that in the first 3 months of 2026, ground robotic systems performed more than 22,000 missions on Ukraine's front line. Quote, in other words, lives were saved more than 22,000 times when the robot went. No, he's more like, when a robot went into most dangerous areas instead of a warrior. This is a high technology protecting the highest value, human life, Zelensky said.
Hold on.
22,000 in
That's
90
244.
days.
That's about 244 missions a day.
Is it? It sounds
Not
like
that-
it'd be
yeah.
more than that. Is that
22,000 divided by, well, I'm rounding 90 days,
Yeah,
right?
divided
That's
by
3 months.
90. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
22,000 divided by 90. Oh, that's 220,000.
Over 200 missions a day by these robots. I mean,
Almost 250. That's a
you
lot.
know,
What are they
Ukraine
doing
is,
over there?
yeah, Ukraine is a big place. It's kind of hard to understand just how big the like front line is. It
One
spans
robot, one mission.
That's a
Maybe
lot
they're
of
just
robots.
how does it say how many robots, or does it just say 22,000
Doesn't
missions?
say. Just says 22,000 missions. So I mean, you got to have a lot. You got to have at least 200.
I don't know.
robots
That sounds like COVID numbers. You know, that's
No, but that's a good point. Yeah.
COVID
And
death.
you know,
Like,
it's particularly interesting in the context of robots and, you know, demonic embodiment of AI, these sorts of things. Now, these are piloted with remote control, but they have AI elements to them. Of course, the Ukraine war seems to, one of the entire, I guess, incentives for the Ukraine war to even exist is for the world governments, or the governments of the world, rather, to experiment, battlefield experiments. Like, what does next gen warfare actually look like? Of course, we got 5th generation warfare, but there still needs to be some sort of kinetic operations. And, you know, both Russia and Ukraine losing just basically an entire generation of men in their in this war. It, like, necessity has brought humanity to the point where, at least, you know, I'm sure robots are doing a lot, but to have like a full operation, take a position and take POWs, like, they're little robots. And in the video, he goes through all their robots, and they have, none of them are like humanoid. They're all on tank tracks, a gun on a tank track, or, you know, a little dune buggy looking guy. You know, they have if you play the video, Guns, I notice you haven't played the video yet.
Oh, no, I haven't yet.
Yeah,
hold
but
on one
just
second,
play it,
let's
because
do
at
it.
the end of it, it'll give people kind of an idea. You know, they got maybe like a dozen different kinds of drones and little ground drones and things like that. But I wonder how many, they make it sound like one robot took 3 guys prisoner.
Wow.
And I'm trying to think, if I was with a couple of buddies and a robot comes into our position, has got a gun on it, I have a hard time thinking that my first instinct would be to give up and hand myself over to the enemy. Now, throw a couple of dune buggies with machine guns on there, you know, maybe that's it. But, you know, the narrative is, at least here, we have now transitioned into the era of like full robotic operational warfare, which is perfect. Because Optimus, Elon's Optimus is supposed to come out in a few months.
Yeah, that's going to be. I think once in America, we haven't really fully seen the effect of the robot takeover. But once the Optimus comes out, I believe it's going to be. It'll be a thing, streamers. It'll, the whole thing. Ooh, the termite, the lynx.
Rami in the chat says, including all drone missions, that makes sense. 200 drones flying a day is that wild. Yeah, they don't make it sound like it was drones though.
I mean, they're only showing these ground robots.
You don't call a robot a drone. Like you don't call a drone a robot. I mean,
These
maybe
all look
maybe
like
there's like a translation.
Well, there's a couple. There's a couple drones right there. So yeah, maybe drones included. And also in Zelensky's translation,
call a drone a robot. But I mean, he has to get to that 22,000 number. So maybe
right. Well, also he in the translation here. Let me see where he said it. Where did he say the 22,000 number? Was it on the other side? Oh, here we go. We completed over 22,000 missions in 3 months, over 22,000. In other words, over 22,000 times lives were saved. Okay, all right. It's just political jargon.
Well, I don't know. I have to think
seems a little
about these robots because they've been using drones the entire war, right? I mean, there's probably been millions of drones blown up in this war now. So it seems weird to pick this 3-month period to include drones while you're bragging about ground robots taking positions.
Right.
Who knows? Who cares? The robots are here to take over the world. We got this other one at the same time. Now, this is fun. So this came out, and this is a big deal. It came out yesterday. All right. Okay. Ukraine bragging about their drones. The next day, today, I was tagged by a follower, assuming a listener. Actually, both of us were flagged.
Yeah, we were both not flagged, tagged.
Tagged.
To be clear, yeah.
And in this video of this, the explanation of the video is Russian weapon designers have created an AI-powered robotic sniper. The Dvoynik robotic sniper system can be used in remote control mode as well as an autonomous mode. That's spooky, where the AI performs most of the work. It can also be used in both stationary and mobile platforms, providing tremendous mobility. Furthermore, the system is equipped with high-speed quasi-hypersonic rounds, allowing it to destroy enemy drones with ease. And the video is kind of interesting. It starts out with the gun on a tripod. The guy sets it up, and it's
got a silencer on it. Is that what that is?
That big old can on it, and it kind of moves around and snipes itself. Then the next one, my favorite, they show it is just a gun. Basically, it's like a floating gun with robot's brain. The next one, they show it on tank tracks, just like whipping around the snow, like ripping donuts out in the snow on this thing. Then there's other footage. What?
I just realized I need to get out of here. I totally forgot that I had something to attend to here in about
I was trying
15 minutes. I know you were trying. I completely forgot it. It's in my mind. I know it's my fault.
This is like a part of the show now too. The end of the show ends when Basil
says, just running away.
Hey, Gons, I think you need to go. Do you have time? I think we're out of time. And you go, no, we got all the time in the world. We'll do 10 more stories. All right, let me run through real quick. We got some producers that came in under the executive amount. Thank you very much. Go to canarycry.support. Producer Sir Marty B came in.
Thank you.
7774. Thank you very much, Sir Marty B. Rebecca T is back, came in for 4321, 4321 on a 15 episode streak. Rocket Man, Rebecca.
Rocket Man, burning out his fuse out here. Hello.
Thank you, Rebecca T.
Bruce W comes in for 1111. Thank you, Bruce
W. 1111. Thank you.
Emily C comes in for 1111.
Emily C 1111.
And Emily C sends a note, says, hi, friends. I donated 1111, my wedding anniversary date, in honor of my best friend / husband / fellow Canarian, Bobby's birthday. Must have missed where to write the note, but could you please? Yes, we got you. But could you please wish this wonderful man of God a very happy birthday? Thanks.
It's my birthday. It's my birthday.
Happy birthday to me.
There we go.
Happy birthday, Bobby, and thank you for producing the show, Emily C. See the family that canaries together stays together. Canaries together, marries together. I don't know. We'll think of a rhyme. But thanks for being such a great producer, Emily, and a big old happy birthday to her man, Bobby.
Thank you. Happy birthday, Bobby.
All right. I'm going to keep the streaks for the streakers going for the sake of time. They come in under $7.77. God bless you guys. I got your streak going. I'll thank you next week. But of course, we got to thank real quick our time stampers.
Time stampers. Time stampers. That's our time, people.
Time stamp. It's hard work. Time stamp.
Jade Bouncerson pumping out timestamps for 9:31. Thank you.
Thank you, Jade Bouncerson. Thank you to Jam for the Telegram channel. Thank you to Adam42 for the Discord channel. If you're not yet in the Telegram or the Discord group, go to canarycry.party. Join those. You'll see the invite link there. Thank you to Joe for the feedback. Thank you to Clink for clinking. And thank you to Sir Ike for all the wonderful Sir Ikey things you do for us. And you, dear listener, remember, you have a very big responsibility, and that responsibility is to share the show, okay? We call it rattling cages, and all you got to do is walk right up to them, grab them by the cage, and then you shake it.
The end of the world occurred pretty much as we had predicted.
I want to shake things up, stir up some controversy, rattle a few cages. Don't ever silence me. I'm the last angry man, a crusader for the little guy. Leave the bird alone. Never. Rattle a few cages. Rattle a few cages.
Every opportunity to improve.
And if they don't?
Noah.
That's right. Just ask Noah. Guns, you got any last words?
Last words. Thank you, everybody, for another great episode. We will see you. Well, some of you will see Basil tomorrow. We might have an episode out Friday, a Canary Cry Radio episode, which is a great one. So stay tuned for that.
That's right. Lots of stuff coming at you, folks. Be here for Canary Cry Clubhouse tomorrow. God bless you. Stay sane. Stay away from the AI demons. And of course, thanks for tuning into this episode of Canary Cry News Talk. Make sure to tune in next time. That'll be on Monday. But until then, think outside the cage.
Goodbye.
Value for value. We take no money from corporations, commies, or cartels.
Canary cried out.